Hello, and welcome to The Kosh. I'm your host, Timber Smith, and The Kosh is a podcast that spotlights people who've had an association with the Kosh or the surrounding Fox Cities area. Kosh listeners, how are you doing? You know what? I didn't even do the intro I want to do because I'm going to start calling The Kosh the People's Podcast, because that's what I feel we are. And not only that, since The Rock has come back wrestling, I love The Rock, and I think we are deserving of the title of the People's Podcast, because that is who we are and have become. So that is going to be the new way we intro the Kosh, and I had it all planned out and totally screwed that up. But, you know, what are you going to do? All right, let's get our normal day. It is finally time that it feels like spring is here. Even though we had a little snowpocalypse here in April, but I mean that's supposed to happen, but I believe that is going to be the last snowpocalypse we have. It is a beautiful day. The sun is shining. It is the weekend, and let me just break it down like this. You know, first of all, I'm stupid excited about today's episode, like crazy excited. I'm excited about all episodes, but sometimes there's things in the space that just make it a little more interesting. And I'm not talking about Bosco the podcast dog, who is chewing a bone on my foot at this point. Bosco, stop that. All right. But this time, let me just say this, and I think you know what I'm going to say. I don't know how I continue to get these amazing, amazing guests. And this week is definitely not any different. So, without any further ado, this week's guests are Doug Post and Spencer Morse. What's up, Doug? Hey. What's up, Spencer? How are you doing?
Happy Timber.
Hey, all right. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to come and do a little fixing on some microphones. In the meantime, while I fix microphones, Doug, let's go ahead and jump in, and let's have you start sharing with. Can you please share a little something about yourself and your connection to the Kosh and the Fox Cities region?
Sure, of course. Well, Timber, I've known you for, I believe, a decade at this point, right? As probably when I first met you was shortly after, sometime when I was towards the end of my pursuit of my culinary degree at Fox Valley Tech.
Facts.
Had the pleasure of serving you down at our neighborhood bar, formerly Crank Your Pats, downtown Oshkosh.
Oh, wait, that's the church.
The church.
That is the church. Crank Your Pats was the church.
Yeah, the good old days.
Bruh.
Appreciate everybody that was there. But I think just our connection to our community and the people we love really kind of, brought into like the acquaintanceship, friendship that we know each other from by.
This is true. Doug, we've known each other for a good little piece. I've had Doug's food for a good little minute. And no doubt, that is how this connection here has come about. All right. And Spencer?
Yeah, we were both originally from Fond du Lac and moved up to Oshkosh for college, met my wife here, and I just fell in love with Oshkosh. That's my home now.
It's the home.
And it's just it's a great location right in the Fox Valley. And when we thought of starting a business, it was a no-brainer to start it here.
Right. And you said you met your wife here?
Yeah, we met in college, UW Oshkosh.
All right, so everybody's a Titan in this space. We got to celebrate beating Titans.
Fox Valley for Doug.
I didn't go to the UWO or University of Wisconsin. I did do University with Fond du Lac for a couple semesters, but
you did?
No UWO.
Okay.
But definitely served. I worked there. How's that?
Yeah, no, I think I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. But you both have been around the region for a really long time.
Yeah, 20 years, because we're old.
Yeah, no, man, you're not old. You know what? I just saw that beautiful newborn not that long ago, and you get old when you got one that's like 26. That's
sure. Well, I feel old at 2 a.m. when I got to go soothe this 5-month-old. So.
Oh, facts, man. Yeah. That is no joke. Right.
I'm feeling a little old today. I went on a Society of Brewers bus tour yesterday, S.O.B. So we're actually S.O.B. members as well, Society of Brewers. And yeah, I had some good beers yesterday. And definitely I'm like, man, I am old waking up this morning, but we're going to keep Keep it rolling.
We're going to keep it rolling. And, oh, yeah, we're going to be okay. You know what made you old in what you just said? The fact that y'all were on a bus. That sounds like we went to go play bingo. We got on the bus.
Yeah, it was a school bus. Doug did me a solid. He got a babysitter. He was running the cidery yesterday. And I got to go on my first bus tour for the S.O.B. So.
Okay.
We went to Manitowoc.
That sounds like a fun group. And I feel like that group has been mentioned on the Kosh before, maybe by Ian. Big shout out to Ian over there at Fifth Ward. And
they're an awesome group.
Yeah. And that just seems okay. You know what? Can I get an invite? Can there be a bus guest? Like, I don't know if I can be an S.O.B, but I can.
You can come to any meeting. We a lot of times we have them at Fifth Ward, different places, bare bones sometimes, but once a month. And yeah, they would love to have you down. In fact, I was telling about you yesterday, and they're like, "This sounds awesome." They're like, a lot of people didn't know about the Kosh. I'm like, you got to check out the Kosh.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Well,
there's a lot of energy in that group. I think you would not have any problem pulling sound bites if you did get audience.
Hey, you know what? We're mobile. We'll show up.
Yeah, and Zach and Ian were S.O.Bs. Jody from Bare Bones, S.O.B. So lots of Mega Brewing, S.O.B. So lots of brewers in town are from that.
Okay. No, that sounds fantastic. And you know what? I want the invite. I want to come.
I'll hit them up.
You know what? And I'll just be mobile. We could do a mobile podcast with the S.O.Bs.
Yeah, Scott, the president, I already know he's going to say yes.
All right, that sounds
fair.
All right, so for our Kosh listeners, I want to set the setting because I think this is super important before we go any further. I need to set the setting. So, when this was all getting formulated, right? Like, I'd been chasing Doug for a little minute. My man is a hard man to corner down. He's busy. He be doing things, right? Finally catch him and it's like, all right, we need to talk about what you're doing now. And it's all come together. And then it went bonkers. It was like, oh, but if we're going to do that, we're going to bring this. So what I am doing is I am sitting in a room full of Sunken paddle ciders. All sorts of yumminess is sitting here in front of me. And so just know this, throughout this episode, there's going to be the tasting of various Sunken paddle products and a discussion about like entrepreneurship, and you know what, matter of fact, what are y'all? Because, here's the thing. I know, wait, I forgot to give, this episode is sponsored by Sturgeon Spirits.
Yeah.
Yes. Oshkosh's newest tradition. Like, big shout out to my fam over there at Sturgeon Spirits, of course. But today is about Sunken paddle. So what is it? And that's the key. Like, okay, I know what breweries are, right? And I know what a distillery is.
You know what a distillery is, yeah.
Right, because that's my church. I hang out there.
Yeah. I didn't even know what a proper martini was until Todd made me one.
Oh.
A dry martini, yeah.
Yeah.
I blew my mind.
That man is a chemist. I feel like he should serve drinks in a lab coat.
Yeah.
Like it would be appropriate.
He'd probably like that.
I think he would love it. But so what is Sunken paddle?
We get that question a lot. That's a perfect question. So we're licensed as a winery. If you think about it, apple hard cider is just basically apple wine. So we ferment using wine yeast. We age it. Really, the main difference with us is we're carbonating. It's like carbonated apple wine. So we're a winery. Well, we specialize in cider, so we're a cidery. A subset of a winery or a cidery. We're Oshkosh's nano urban cidery.
Nano urban. That sounds fancy.
Yeah.
I learned a separate definition from nano. Smaller is pico.
Yeah.
And that means there's really no employees. There's just the ownership group. So technically, we're pico.
We're even
but
smaller
that is
than
so
nano.
foreign. We are just like the most nano of nanos.
Yeah, the nanos of nanos.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? That looks like tanks of apple juice that we source from Wisconsin. We are lucky enough to work with a great orchard out in Swamico. I'm sure there'll be time to talk about that.
Yeah, shout out to Maple Valley Orchard. We'll hit them up later, too.
But we basically pitch yeast. We provide that yeast nutrients. And over time, it takes about 2 weeks to fully ferment a batch of juice. After that, you want to, it's called racking, where you take the juice out of the tank into a new tank, getting it off the suspended or dead yeast. which can impart off flavors into it. Then we choose to age it as long as the cider needs. It could be anywhere from 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be a year. Basically, the juice is the king, and it tells you what it needs.
And we, from cradle to grave, we are picking the apples at their peak ripeness. So some trees will go out and pick the whole tree in one weekend. Some it's like 10 apples every week. It's every little tree is a little bit different. We go pick the apples, we crush them, we make juice. There's no water, there's no heat. So that's always a question we get is, oh, are you brewing that? No, we're not. It's just fermenting. It's definitely, like Doug's saying, winemaking.
What is a winemaker called? I mean, all right, because there's everybody. Brewers are brewers.
Yeah.
Distillers are distillers. What do they?
A winemaker. I actually cider maker is the title I like to use.
Okay.
And ironically, cider maker is technically 2 words, not to me. Cider maker is 1 word. I'm not a maker. I'm a cider maker. So I always like to spell it as 1 word.
There you go. That's smooth. Okay. Cider maker. All right. So, Kosh listeners, as you can tell, this episode, we've got the owners here of Sunken Paddle, Ciderworks, and we are going to be sampling stuff, and we're going to have a doggone great time.
Yeah, let's start sampling.
Yeah. What's the first one? What are we kicking this off with?
Doug, this is your baby. Why don't you introduce it?
What we have in
Your
our
second
glass
baby.
here is our Perry, which is, oddly enough, not a cider. It is pear juice. We were lucky enough to run into a gentleman named Phil Kiefer out of Winneconne. He hooked us up with some a unique blend of his pears, which I didn't realize how much work it was actually going to be, but I got these pears, and they were like rock hard, right? And I'm like, oh, I need to let them ripen. And as you let fruit sort of age in your cooler, they'll evaporate water off, and that sugar and that flavor will condense. The starches mature into sugar, and it just becomes a more flavorful product. Well, the whole building smelled like that tastes as the pears got older and older in that tank. Part of that aging was, bacteria and natural molds and yeast started to break down the fruit a little bit, and that's called wild fermentation. So there's a portion of this that is naturally fermented with a symbiotic bacteria that mutated in the fruit to work with that fruit.
So this is yeast that's growing right on the pears, things like that. So it's literally fermenting in the skin as it's aging in our cooler.
So we let that go for, a little bit, but then we pitched a commercial yeast that kind of was stronger. It overrid that. Don't worry, we pasteurized it too for you, but it's basically there's that funkiness to it, and that is that bacteria portion of the fermentation. And then the part that we can just control and best, understand how it's going to react is the commercial yeast. This was then aged, I want to say 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
In a jug, essentially. And as things age, the complexity and the maturity forms, you kind of lose the heat of the alcohol. But this, it kind of tastes like pears, but there's this like floral element to it.
It is.
There's no back sweetening. We didn't add anything to it at the end.
This is
This pure pear juice,
just the way it
fermented
came,
and aged. And that's just a
Have you ever had something
mutual
like that,
friend of
Timber?
ours.
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. I sound like 2 scientists over here, and I'm feeling this. But I'm going to tell you, at the end of the day, I come down to this. The taste bud said this is yummy.
Yeah.
That's it. I break things down to the simplest form. This here, bruh, is fantastic.
A mutual friend of ours, Smashers, down at formerly Cranky Pats and now at the New Moon,
Yes.
asked me which one I'm most proud of. I'm proud of all these things on this table. That's why I
Right.
brought them here. This one I think is so unique and so cool. We have probably a combined total of 12 bottles of this left.
Yeah.
And we figured
We only started with 30
You'd be
gallons.
worth
So we had
one.
to,
Wait, and you're blessing me with some?
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you, I am partial to pear. Like, I like pear things. And like, you remember when they had the run of vodkas and they had
Yep.
well, especially when they first started really putting flavors into like vodkas and stuff like that. And Grey Goose had this pear vodka. And I thought that was just like the cat's meow. Like, if I could find that anywhere, that was it. And you didn't need that but anything on the rocks. But let me tell you, this right here, I can roll with this. We can rock this.
pears from Winneconne. His kids help pick them. We always try to get as many local ingredients as we can. pears are fun because they have sugars in them that actually don't completely ferment. So that mouthfeel, that slipperiness is naturally from the pears. But yeah, going back to that pear vodka, I love the different infused like vodka. So I'm sure Sturgeon Spirits has done one. But there's the fake pear flavor. I can't handle that. And then there's the real pear flavor. I assume you're talking like you can tell the difference.
Yeah, you can tell the difference. I'm with this. Okay, this is fabulous. So we are working our way through the very first one. Now, Kosh listeners, I want you to keep up with all the various things that we are going to be tasting and keep up with how we continue to sound as we drink these things. No, don't do it. Don't call us out. That's right. Don't be judging us out there in the Kosh. That's not appropriate. And anyway, we're from Wisconsin. We can handle these things. Yeah, we're about this life.
Morning. Come on.
It is a Sunday morning.
It's gorgeous out.
All right. Well, if you think about it, I feel like I'm doing very church things because I'm literally drinking wine.
Yeah.
And I just learned that. Okay. Well, let me ask you this. If you weren't doing what you're currently doing, what would you like to be doing?
Well, part of it is we still have our day jobs. So I'll answer two ways. One, we want to maybe eventually do this, especially starting maybe with Doug, full-time, like a tap room or something like that. So that's probably where we'd love to get, is actually this being our full-time job. But if I wasn't doing this, I think I would be doing something in this area. There's a lot of cider bars I find on the West Coast, East Coast. There's actually Lost Valley Cider Company in Milwaukee. And a lot of times they'll bring all these ciders from Europe and West Coast, East Coast. And so I love our cider, but I also love when you get just all these different ciders from all over the places. They're just completely night and day. Like, that's the one thing I think people don't realize is the depth of cider. So I think it would still be something where I'm bringing people together in cider. That's probably what I would be doing. Doug?
It's a tough question because is it like, what would I be doing, or what's the idealistic version of be doing, right? I'm going to go with the idealistic version. The reality is, if I wasn't here at this podcast this second, I'd be at home with the kid. But if I wasn't making cider, I would probably be doing something still in the restaurant food industry. I had a heck of a lot of fun doing banquets as a chef doing that. Basically, people are usually getting together to have a good time. I think a big part of food and beverage is sharing experience and sharing new things. So I'd be finding ways to do that. I do know that I've had to, we'll get into the 3 tiers system of Wisconsin, but I've had to pass up a job as a wine sales rep simply because I'm not allowed to have that conflict of interest, or that two kind of like the 2 stages of alcohol sales and production and all that good stuff. So I'd either probably be cooking or I'd probably be slinging wine.
Okay. That seems about right. So let me ask you this. Where did that come from? Sunken paddle. I remember when I first heard it and I was like, that's kind of cool. But it felt like something that had a story to it. Does it have a story to it? Is there a reason?
Of course there's a story, yeah. We don't normally share it, but because we're on the Kosh, we're definitely going to share it.
There you go. What? Bruh. Facts.
Well, first off, it's a fun play on just, we're avid kayakers. We love kayaking. I think Oshkosh is the most beautiful from the water. But the actual Sunken paddle, it is a fun name. It comes up great on Google. It's a very unique thing. And the story behind it is when we first started out, we didn't even have an LLC. We just kind of, it was right during COVID. We said, maybe this is our opportunity to get after this. And we were up in Orchard, Grandview Orchard in Anago. Lisa runs it, and she's amazing. And she was helping us because as we go on this journey, we found all these people just help us along the way. We wouldn't be here without them. So she let us use her hydraulic press. We're pressing just hundreds of pounds of apples that we had picked, and we're putting this in these big totes in my trailer. And
thousands.
Yeah, I mean, just we did like 3 or 4 days of these pressings. It was a lot of hard work. And the last night we were done, and Doug and I went back to the hotel, and we're like feeling accomplished. And we have just this this trailer full of just tanks of juice, and we had a good time that night. We were drinking some cider. I think we got into some White Russians, and like, what? Yeah. So that you can get a little dangerous. And of course, it being Anago, it started snowing. It started freezing. It was getting cold, and I'm looking outside, and I'm like, man, I'm getting nervous that this juice is going to freeze. We have to pump this down we were going to store it in a commercial freezer the next day, and we had to pump it down into these other totes. And I'm like, we can't let this juice freeze. So I'm a little intoxicated, and Doug and I go down to the trailer, and I think he was a little intoxicated too, but we're using a stainless steel paddle that we have, and we're mixing this juice, right? And so a couple hours go by, and we keep going out and making sure that this juice won't freeze. We have to keep this juice going all night. Well, I dropped the paddle in. My stupid butt dropped the paddle right into this humongous tank of juice. And so it was fine. It was towards the end of the night. I was like, well, we'll get it tomorrow. Well, we pumped all the things in the totes, and we're kind of rotating these totes the next morning. And I'm like, it's this one. This one has the paddle. Let's make sure we do this last. And we did that one last, and it didn't have the paddle. So we racked like 250 gallons of juice on the same paddle, and then we put it in a commercial freezer, and it was frozen there for a year while we're getting all our permits, trying to figure this out. And we're sitting with our wives trying to think of some different names. And I forget, I said something paddle.
Sunk paddle.
I said sunk paddle, and Doug's like sunken paddle. And it's kind of actually a nod to the shenanigans of just losing that paddle in our cider and it being frozen in time. So that's the story.
I love that.
We really love the outdoors and camping, fishing stories, all the things. Nothing ever goes as planned, right? You always got some foible on your journey that you have to overcome, choose your attitude, and still enjoy yourself. And so we've also branded it as not only like an outdoor water sports thing, but as making the best of it. So double entendre there of us being, we're making the best cider, but also we are rolling with it, man.
You are
the best of it.
You are literally rowing with it.
Ooh, nice. I appreciate that.
No, that is fabulous. Okay. Well, I always wondered where the name came from, and like the fact that there's like a really cool story behind it just tops it off. And now I definitely want to rock one of those t-shirts and hats because I could be like one of those people.
We actually were almost the sipping pig.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. Why? Wait,
story.
why the sipping pig?
Same orchard.
Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
Same orchard. Lisa she's pretty into the connection of nature and her processes, right? So she started off with a handful of pigs, and each year she's gotten more pigs, and they just run around the orchard that's fenced in, and these pigs just go on these hilarious stampedes from one tree to the next tree, eating all the apples off the ground. So she doesn't have to pick up the apples. There's no disease being spread from these apples, whatever. And these pigs get a nice, healthy breakfast, lunch, and dinner of fresh apples. But when you stop and think about it, these pigs are eating fermenting apples. So they're getting a little buzz too. And I was kind of like, that's me and Spencer. We're running all over the place, going from fermentable apple to fermentable apple.
Bruh.
And I like the juxtaposition of, these ravenous pigs rolling around, running in the mud, and just like really delicately sipping a beverage, right? So I thought that was also us, where we're making cider and we're trying to like elevate cider in the Fox Valley from where, I think perception of what cider currently is and was for us, into this something where you can really enjoy it and really take time to, discover what cider can be, just like wine, just like a fine liquor or good beer. But at the same time, you're drinking,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, and you're probably celebrating, you're probably enjoying with some food. So we talked to a couple groups of people. Sipping Pig tracked really well with the more rural crowd, but not so much with the urban crowd. But Sunken Paddle seemed to track with both groups a little bit better.
Oh, I could see that because, if you called it the sipping pig, there better be some ribs that come with it or something along that lines.
Well,
that's how I feel about it.
Those pigs on Lisa's Orchard were typically bacon by the end of the year, and that was good.
She made the mistake of naming them and then feeling really bad.
Oh.
But there was something about eating bacon from pigs that were using the same apples and then drinking cider with that. That just kind of blew my mind. But let's try the next cider.
Oh, well, it's about that time. Yes.
Yeah, I was like, I want to make sure we keep our
well, I like that you're keeping a pace. And yes, I did finish the last sampling. But you know what? We can't. The story can't be denied. And I'm feeling a sipping pig. And the other thing I'm going to ask you about later, as we taste some of these, is like I feel like since this is wine, fermenting wine, like I get the feeling of samplings. Like something should pair with this kind of thing. So we started with pear, and I'm not gonna lie, my pairing with this would be a bacon sandwich, but that's just me. I would love one of Z's bacon sandwiches to pair.
Sure.
If you've never had one of those bacon sandwiches over there at Z's, they are off the chain. But something about that said, this pair should be paired with a bacon sandwich.
I can see that.
All these, with my experience with food and beverages, I'm either pairing it with an activity or I'm pairing it with food in my imagination as we're blending it. What is this going to be? What is the utilitarian purpose of this beverage, right?
Right.
So if we just poured the rhubarb lavender, I'm going to be honest, this is one that I have not found a place for as far as food. I had one of our guests come to the tasting room on the south side of Oshkosh. They recommended a chicken salad on a bed of arugula, maybe tarragon in the chicken salad. I said, sure. But this one's pretty crazy. I don't know if you want to break it down for them.
Yeah, I'm curious what Timber thinks will pair good with it. But this is the rhubarb lavender agave. So with everything, we try to do local ingredients again. So this is 60. We fermented this on 60 pounds of the rhubarb from the Oshkosh Farmers Market. So last summer's peak rhubarb. We added a little bit of lavender that we got from Elsewhere Cafe in town, and then just a little bit of agave syrup, actually a decent amount of agave syrup. So agave is like what they make tequila out of. So that's where you get this mouthfeel, this creamy mouthfeel. So what would you pair with it, Timber?
Okay, so I'm feeling this because this kind of has also a unique sweet to it to me.
Mm-hmm.
And what comes to my mind is like a sweet and sour something. Okay. Like a sweet and sour Asian-y
like an
dish.
Asian salad maybe or something like that?
Yeah, like
mandarin oranges or something?
Something along that lines is what I feel with that. Or with like a sweet and sour sauce. I'm big on chickens and on chicken or something, or even a beef. But the sauce to me is what would make that pairing perfect. That was the first thing that came to my mind. I'm about 4, 5, 7, 8, 9 sips in, but I'm just saying.
The fun part is really honestly pairing it with food. Cider just plays so well. I feel like certain wines are just a little bit stronger, beers are stronger, but cider is it's meant to be with food, and that's the fun part of having Doug as part of this collaboration is his food background, flavor background. It constantly, like, we're bouncing ideas off of each other, and this flavor evolved from just none of us had this flavor in mind, but that's where it ended up, just by collaboration.
Want to encourage any of our consumers who have found something that they like to pair with our cider to give us a hint on our Facebooks. You have a podcast that connects people. We have a beverage that connects people. Everybody has access to social medias to bring connections to each other and share experiences with each other.
Well, you know what? Since we're talking about this, let's just mention the fact, and then we're going to jump into the first segment. I wanted to really flush this out well so people could understand. I've had the opportunity to go to Sunken and do the tasting, and it's an experience. It is fantastic. And I've mentioned this on another episode, but I want to flush it out that you don't know what you don't know until you know, right? And so, like, you could easily drive past the place and not know that is Sunken Paddle.
And we have that happen a lot, actually.
And then you go in, and I don't know I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't what I expected. And then it was so fabulously warm and nice, and to go through the list of the different ciders there, it was an experience. It was something like that me and my wife walked away from, and we talked about it for days because it was just so down to earth, and it was so unique, and it's something I don't know where else you could do something like that. And informative. The fact that you took so much time to really just break down what are we actually sipping, and where does it fall on this chart, and how is it formed, and the fact that almost everything that you are making comes somewhere locally, which you're getting your apples from or pears from or whatever you're utilizing, and you're partnering with everybody under the sun. Gosh, listeners, I can't stress this enough. If you've got a Saturday, and I can't remember what are the hours again?
12 to 5 Saturdays. So
12 to 5 on a Saturday.
17th, 544 West 17th, so like 17 in Ohio.
That's right.
And you could go right past us.
Oh, yeah. And if you're sitting around and you're not really doing anything, grab your partner and go down there and just go taste everything and just learn and listen. And
all those positive things that you said about our space, our little, what would you say, 20 by 20 room? It's so small.
Yeah.
It's definitely Spencer's idea of education in that space to the consumer. You come in, everything's free.
Yes.
We made licensing decisions based on I know that, when you're talking about the price point of buying these bottles, it is difficult to take a leap on something that you don't know. You're going to spend $10, $12 on something you don't know what's in that bottle. That's a barrier to a lot of the consumers in our market. We want to be in a city center. So if you're on the fence of being able to go or wanting to go, you're not traveling super far out of town, right?
Nope.
We're going to be right, we're accessible in that way. But our best marketing dollar is free cider. We can tell you all about it. We can explain it to you 20 different ways. Your mouth is going to tell you what the cider's all about,
just
right?
get it in their hand.
So that a big nod to Spencer for understanding the experience that it could be in that tiny little room, because there's a lot of negatives of being in such a small space, right? We're not packing in 30 people at a time. We're not even generating revenue on the tasting samples.
Yeah, but is that really fun? You know what I mean? Like
it's different. It's an experience, like you said.
Like you walk away and it's memorable. And I can't stress that enough. It was so memorable. Me and my wife came one week, and the next week I'm bringing my neighbors, because I was like, hey, y'all got to check this out. And my neighbors, a big shout out to Mike and Gwen. They're Mike, my neighbor across the street, born and raised Oshkosh, super Oshkosh, and Gwen has been around here forever, and they were just blown away. They love the experience. They're still talking to us about the experience, and now they're going to bring friends.
The biggest compliment to us is when someone comes into our cidery and then comes back and brings people with them. That to us is just full circle. Doug is right. That place is very personal to us. That product is very personal to us. So we needed a space where we could just one-on-one explain this. It's very much modeled kind of West Coast. So East Coast cideries, you think of even wineries around here. A lot of times you're going out into the country. You're going to the vineyard. We're working with apple growers, so we're able to bring apples to us. And so West Coast, kind of Washington State, similar, right? There's lots of apples, so they truck these apples into the city, and these cideries are in the city center. And the cideries out there just felt a little bit more personal, and that's kind of what we wanted to do. There is an education piece, but just being able to personally explain these products was really important to us. And we wanted to do it our way. That's why we started so small. We didn't want any influence. We wanted to do it our way. So.
Okay, I'm going to throw another pairing in here. I'm going to throw this one would go well with something, I feel like a sweet sausage-y pasta-y dish.
Okay,
but
I can see the sausage, like a
sweet,
Wagner's Brat or something.
But it's got to be sweet though, like sweet with sweet peppers, kind of. Yeah. No matter what, I'm just thinking because of the tone of this, the taste of this, I just like I think another food with a sweet undertone would be awesome.
Good.
So this is a sweeter cider this is on the sweeter side of what we'll ever do. We're kind of committed to this European scale of what wine is defined as by sweet and dry. We know that the market is sort of dominated by sweet cider, and we don't really want to leap into that just because it's covered.
Right.
For the Fox Valley, dry cider is less available. But that said, yeah, definitely a sweeter one from that agave nectar. I appreciate that.
Okay.
It's still sessionable. That's what we're always going for, is you could have this and your gut doesn't feel full like some of those sweet ciders.
Oh, no, it doesn't feel full at all because I'm leaving room for more.
Yeah, let's say, what should we do next?
All right. Well, while you
Yeah.
prepare us for the next tasting,
Yeah.
I'm going to prepare us for us to actually finally jump into our first segment of the Kosh.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so first segment of the Kosh is called "What in the World is Going On With?" That's where you start with the phrase "What in the world," and then you tell us what's on your mind. Spencer, while you're getting those ready, I'm gonna go ahead and ask Doug, "What's your what in the world?"
We've got a lot to talk about, but I think the what in the world in my mind is what in the world is DORA. DORA's new. DORA is the downtown something
See, we don't even know.
recreational area, right? Something like that.
I'm not sure. I know it's D is downtown.
Yeah,
Sure.
downtown.
So it's basically
Maybe it's downtown outdoor recreational alcohol.
Sure.
I don't know if that's what it is.
So it's
sure
our
one of your
little own
listeners will correct us.
Yeah.
Mardi Gras area. It's like an invisible barrier surrounding North Main from Parkway down to the waterfront, the riverfront, the river walk. And basically, we want to have the freedom as consumers to go from location to location and not be burdened by finishing our drink before I leave, which actually would encourage faster alcohol consumption versus being able to maybe nurse that one for a couple stops and go from place. Go ahead. Looks like you got it there.
Oh yeah, we're close. Downtown outdoor refreshment area.
Ooh, thank you. Sorry,
we were
everybody. There are, in my opinion, strange hours surrounding that, which are probably on that same website where it's like very limited. I think it's Wednesday to Friday and then Saturdays only.
And not even for the Oshkosh Farmers Market. It's in the afternoon for Saturdays, I believe.
That is, I feel like when we rolled out DORA as a community, this is a pilot program. This is a test program to see what impact it was going to have, positive or negative, how it would adjust the service paradigm of the downtown beverage purveyors, right? So for me, I do feel like it is a missed opportunity to be able to have it for those farmers market hours. And again, I think that the outdoor thing, to really like make it clear, it encourages responsible beverage beverage consumption, where you are not going to 3 spots and having to drink at each one. You're having a drink you're gonna drink at your leisure until you get your next beverage if you care to.
Yes, I agree 100% with you about that, because if I can take it with me, I'm not going to slam it to have to leave and move.
And I think a lot of people also thought that it would get rowdy and not classy, and there'd be trash everywhere. And I think we've proven that Oshkosh is a little classy, and we know how to handle it.
Wait, do they not know us as Osh Vegas? Do they not know who we are?
Yeah.
I don't know if self-policing is not the right word, but I feel like if you're out with a group and you're starting to make bad decisions, people are gonna let you know, rein it back. And I think also, DORA or not, there's going to be problems with people anyways downtown. But it's just about handling them in the best, most effective way, I think, when it's happening.
Well, yeah. You know what I never like when we do things for the few instead of creating the things for the many, right? So when you create something like this and you're holding things back, you're worried about those few incidences, those few individuals who are going to make poor choices. But overwhelmingly, the majority of people aren't going to abuse it, aren't going to do wrong by it, and are going to be grateful for it. And I tend to like to lean that way, because I think it's not hard for us to go and, I hate using the word police, but properly maintenance situations like this where people can really utilize it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just hope it keeps growing. I'm with Doug. I think it's proven itself out, and I just hope I think the city council sees that too. So I think hopefully only good thing. Hopefully, like to your point, expands. So you said doing it for certain people. It's odd to me that it ends right at the end of Main Street, right before the bridge. So you cross the bridge over to Green's Poorhouse. You can't do that. So hopefully it expands a little bit too.
I spent a little time down at that food co-op. I was running some food out of there, and they would do bi-monthly music events outside on their patio.
Right.
And, they're a grocery store. They have a Class A liquor license. You can get beers, wines, whatever out there. And a lot of my guests would be on the patio and they'd be like, oh man, I'm just going to have this beer while I'm watching this band. I'm like, you know what? You can't, but you can literally cross the street and have it over there. You know, it's like, and there's always going to be a border, right?
Right.
But I don't think it's very easy to, I don't know what the right word is, apply to be included in it. And it needs, like all things, the market has the ability to self-correct. It would, if they were given the opportunity, they would love to be included on that. And I'm sure some of those southern
the Sawdust District, we got to expand it to that, at least on the fifth floor and stuff. Yeah.
I do want to give credit though, because I mean I don't know
it's brave that they even did it.
Right, the fact that they even did it, because I don't think there's any other municipality that I know of as of right now who's doing anything close to this. So I appreciate it. I like it, and even more so, Doug, what you're talking about is I think the win of it is the fact that to me it causes more responsible use, because I don't know about you, but we do have this thing in Wisconsin where we're like, well, I'm not going to leave it. So I got to slam it before I go. And if I could take it with me, I'm going to sip, instead. And I just think that's, to me, it's a smarter move. So, okay, now we have new things in front of us. So before we jump into your what in the world is going on, Spencer, what do we got going on now? We have moved on to the next. We are on number 3.
We have moved on to the black currant. So currants, if you don't know, they're these small berries. They're tart. They grow in bushes. This was grown, I kept saying Jackson Street, but we looked it up. It was Harrison Street in Oshkosh. So these black currants were grown locally from one of our friends. Her kids actually picked it. So a little bit of child labor went into this. So I was joking that makes it taste a little bit better. What did they get out of it? I'm trying to remember. Did they get to go to a movie?
No. So I did talk to Farmer Jen yesterday. She said, go ahead, give me a name drop. I'll leave her kid's name out of it, but he was 4 years old. They have a little half acre plot of land, and she sort of does, I describe it as like a landscaping. She does like, it's called permaculture. Are you familiar with permaculture at all?
Not at all.
It is basically utilizing plants and landscape and all the things that go into agriculture to symbiotically support each other, rather than I'm going to throw pesticide down, or I'm going to, mar the landscape to make an aquifer, water movement, right? Whatever. So it's naturally solving the problems that we face as cultivators.
Okay.
So it's called First Fruits Permaculture is her business's name. They are going to continue working with the city to make their vision whole, but essentially urban farming. And she's got a really cool yard. It's like a fairy tale back there. And so she had 30 extra pounds of black currant at the end of the year, which is, these are small berries. There's a lot of black currant that they had what they needed to take care of. She likes to make a jam out of it. Of course, to any of these listeners, excess fruit, let's talk fermentation. We freeze the fruit just so it kind of breaks down the walls of the cells. And then the juice sort of moves through the fruit, and it gives us a little wine quality, that mouthfeel, those tannins, a tartness when we fermented it on the cider.
Yeah, so this was fermented on 30 pounds of black currant. Yeah, you get the black currant tannins and the apple tannins. They kind of play off each other. Gorgeous
color. Totally gear shift change from what you just had with the rhubarb lavender agave into this, where you get...
This is more of a dry, I guess.
Much drier.
Okay.
It's about 1.5% residual sweetness, meaning 1.5% of the sugar that was in the beverage is not fermented.
This one's actually even drier. It's about 0.5%. So this is pretty dry. So it almost evaporates off your tongue, right?
Yeah.
And you got to kind of find it. You can find those fruit notes in there. I think it's great. I think this one was more of a winter varietal, where I definitely envision curled up on the couch, having this, maybe a dried meat cheese board, maybe your favorite book or some reruns on Netflix or something. Definitely chill out, enjoy this on your own speed.
I think this is charcuterie board worthy.
Yeah.
That's a good call.
Cheese really goes good with a lot of cider. It's just like wine, but this one especially, I would agree with that.
Okay. All right,
So their
Spencer.
4-year-old son, with his payment that I gave him for the berries, was able to take the family out to Leon's for custard.
Oh.
That's what they got. Yeah, all that hard work.
Look, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
My what is going on with, I'm going to stick with the alcohol law theme. What's really on my mind this last couple of weeks is Wisconsin. It's kind of a little bit under the radar, but we have had this 3-tier alcohol system since after Prohibition. I mean, it's not changed much. And
that when you're saying that, you're talking about like Class A, Class B, Class C.
so we're talking manufacturers, distributors, and just, bars and stuff like that. So basically, you have the people making it. So we're the manufacturers, right? We're the cidery making it. You have these bigger distributors, that are, like Lee's Beverage in town. Maybe you've heard of that, where they're moving alcohol to these different, and then you have the final place like a bar. And so those are 3 different tiers where you're serving it, you're making it, or you're distributing it. And for the longest time, you couldn't combine the two. So if you wanted to, let's say, like if you worked, like Doug was saying, like we worked for a winery, so he couldn't be a winery rep because we own a winery. So you can't cross these tiers. So it's been you can't even invest in different tiers. So you have to be really, like when you apply for these licenses, you have to, everything you're connected to. So it's this very old system, and we've been talking forever about changing it, and it finally happened. I still can't believe it. So it's Wisconsin Act 73. It was passed last December, and it basically was the Winery Association, the Distillery Guild, the Brewery Guild, the distributors, the Tavern League. They all kind of hashed this out. And so what's interesting to us is just the changes. And so it kind of gives us, like wineries, distilleries, these new retail locations. So breweries now can start these secondary tap rooms and have these other retail locations. As a winery, we could only stay open until 9. Now we can stay open beyond 9 p.m. So that was a lot of wineries that had like weddings. They'd literally walk around, take the wine out of people's hands at 9 o'clock. So it's really taken this old system and refreshed it, and is going to allow us to do basically on and off premise sales. It might even allow us to sell, I believe, if I'm understanding correctly, we can even sell other people's products. So right now we're working on an apple brandy with Sturgeon Spirits. So we'd be able to sell our own that we tiered up with them. So a brandy is like distilled wine. So ours is apple wine. So we worked with Sturgeon Spirits to do a apple brandy. So we'd be able to sell that. And so it's just kind of opened up everything, and we're still figuring it out. This law rolls out in May 1st, and every day I'm talking to the state and the city, and just figuring stuff out. And I'll even thank the city. The city clerk has been, city clerk deputy has been just amazing, trying to work with us and learn this, because this is in real time happening. So that's what's been on my mind this week. So that's what in the world's going on. Is there's a lot happening in Wisconsin when it comes to alcohol laws.
That sounds promising.
Yeah.
Like what that could possibly mean for...
It means a lot for breweries. And so I think there's going to be like pop-up. You're going to see like a really good famous brewery maybe in some place, and then now they can do a pop-up maybe in another town, right? And it really frees it. Now people can invest in different tiers, right? So it's going to open up just investments for people. The only part of the law that is a little controversial is it also regulates barn weddings. So that part I'm not necessarily a fan of, but basically previously farmers were doing barn weddings, and I think it limits it to like 4 or 5 barn weddings now. I kind of see both sides of that part of it. I mean, supposedly, there's people, making multi-million-dollar quote unquote barns. I'm using air quotes to kind of get around the law. So it adds some of that. It adds other little fixes, tiny things here about like seltzers and all this stuff. So it's very in the weeds, nerdy kind of law stuff, but I think we're going to see a lot of growth from a Wisconsin. Like, how does it affect me? I think you're going to see all these breweries, wineries, distilleries have a lot more opportunities to get their stuff out there and sample and have like tap rooms and stuff.
There's going to be big, vast changes in the marketplace for alcohol manufacturing and consumption. It'll be very interesting to see where the dust settles. And
I was going to ask, because here's the first place I really went mentally was, does this create opportunities for people to come in and monopolize?
That was what the 3-tier system originally was meant to stop.
Right.
And so that was always the argument was, if you let that happen, someone's going to come in, they're going to make it, they're going to sell it. And my counter argument to that is, if you look at Wisconsin, all the small breweries, distilleries, these are the people like us, like we're, a Pico, not even Nano. That's who really it's helped. And we have these big distributor companies, and we're going to still have the big, Miller and Coors, and all that in Milwaukee. But I think if you really look around, it's all these small wineries, breweries, that's who they're lifting up. I really don't think there's going to be a problem. I think the market will correct itself before that would happen.
I mean, it's not like carte blanche. You don't get to have 500 new locations. Like if I'm Miller, right, I'm not going to open like 500 wine shops.
Yeah,
right?
it's tiered. You get up to 3 if you have if you're really big brewery, you get up to 3 locations. If like us, we'll get 1 location. If we made more than 5,000, 2 locations. So it is tempered, and you do kind of work with the local community. So if you
think about one of those medium, large breweries down in Milwaukee or something, I don't want to use any names, right? They could have an east and west location now instead of just being 1 location.
Okay.
And like one thing that, if we ever take the leap into a tap room, like with where, we're selling pints and stuff like that, a barrier to us was how do we do the licensing before this changed, was how do we get a downtown location while manufacturing at this location, or, you know what I mean? So
it simplifies
it kind of gives us the ability to pivot and not necessarily uproot everything we have and bet on one location. We can kind of piece it together a little bit more fluidly.
Okay.
So it's pretty exciting.
All right. I like that. Sounds like it's going to be good for us.
Yeah, check in with us in a year.
You'll let me know.
Yeah.
All right. What in the world is going on with people asking you questions they don't really want the answer to.
Bruh.
No, I am so serious about this. And what I mean is okay, when people, and this happens all the time, right? So people walk by you, it's a day, you're at work, they're walking by you, and while you're walking by each other, like going to get coffee or at the bathroom, someone's going to turn around and say, hey, how you doing? Or how was your weekend? But they never stop. Like they ask you, but they keep walking. So they're not really trying to find out how are you doing or how your weekend was, because they ain't never stopped. They keep moving, right? Mm-hmm. Unless they just expect you to yell back at them once they're 3 steps past you and be like, it was good. How was yours? And it never stops. So my whole thing is, why ask?
Sure.
And I feel like we should change whatever the trade-off, that mini conversation that we often have with each other, to be more real. Like, I would just want to shorten it to something along the lines of like, you good? I'm good. You good? I am. Thanks. And keep it moving. Right? Like, but when you ask someone, how was their weekend? You're usually not going to just answer with, it was good. There's details to it.
Right, how you ask it, yeah.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but it happens all the time. My other thing is like, a lot of times when people ask these questions like that, is like, oh, how's work going? I really don't want to tell you how work's going.
Mm-hmm. There's the polite answer, there's the expected, you can tell kind of when they're looking for the usual, it's going great, or no one ever gives the detail, and then when you ask it the right way, you're right, you really kind of actually want that feedback.
Well, you know what, if you ask me at all, I'm gonna tell you, so you don't I'm telling y'all now, don't ask.
I think people need to do that more. I'm with you,
because I'm gonna tell you,
there's like a 2 or 3, we'll say month turnaround if I get introduced to a new population, right? If they ask me how it's going, my knee-jerk reaction, best day of my life. And by the 4th time they ask you what's going on, you say best day of your life, and you say best day of my life. They know.
Living the dream. Yeah.
You know what my answer is going to be. I believe it is like, I'm a social guy, right? I'm always looking at the faces of the people I'm talking to. It is awkward for me to walk by somebody at work and not say something, have any amount, even though we're terribly different people, not connected really. My director walks by, whatever, hey, good morning, how you doing? Something like that. I don't think it's that we don't want the answer. I think it's that we want to have at least the facade of connection in that moment, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot more comfortable to just be like, well, I tried.
I like how you put that, the facade of connection. And I'm just like, I just want to change the question to like a really easy answer. So if I walk past you and you'll be like, you good? It's a yes or no. It's not that complex to me. Now, the other thing that I think we should be able to do is let's get past words altogether and let's get to the good old fashioned head nod. I feel like there's power in the head nod. You know, you see somebody.
I'm
That's
a
right.
big fan of the head nod, actually.
See?
Like, I'm nodding all. I'm like, I'm acknowledging that you are there and you are a person. Boom. You
Look.
it's very simple, but it's easy.
Look, black folks, we do this all the time. It's across
Just
the room.
acknowledge it. You just
It is. Well, there's a lot to the nod. There's all sorts of things that go into the nod. There's differences in the nod. There's different types of nods. There's things there. There's communication happening, but we don't need to say nothing. Matter of fact, y'all don't even know if it's like, I swear to God, if you really watch in certain spaces, right, that head nod can literally happen across a room of 100+ people, and we'll walk in.
lock
And
eyes.
if we're the only black folks, we lock eyes, head nod happens. There's all sorts of things that are being said there. And then we keep it moving, and we will eventually, hopefully, maneuver around the space to connect. But there is almost always an acknowledgement of some sort. And this happens when you walk by each other on the street, when you're in spaces, all of the things, restaurant, all of this, man. The head nod is powerful. I feel like we should just make that the standard acknowledgement communication instead of these questions. Head nod. Keep it moving.
I'm incredibly awkward. I'll give a head nod with a smile, and I can just I just feel people being, yeah, keep smiling. Everybody likes an idiot. You know? I'm like, I'm that idiot all the time. Hey, how's everything's going? Yeah.
See, I think I have I try to go for the respectful nod. Like I would say, like I'm trying to say, hello, you're my equal. Like I'm acknowledging you. We're the same. Like hello, respectful nod is what I always go for.
See,
there's different nods though. I agree with you. There's different vibes with the nods.
My head nod. What I'm really just trying to ask you: are you good?
Mm-hmm.
Are you good?
See, I feel like that's more of like an up nod. Where your chin kind of go like, hey. How you doing?
No, that's different. See, how you doing is different
you're right.
than are you good?
Yeah, it's true.
Right? Those are two different tones and phrases and sentiments.
Do you respond to a chin up nod with a chin down nod?
Oh, no. But there's science to this. Like somebody has studied it. It means something different than if a person nods at you head down versus if you lift in your chin. Oh. Like a hit, and I'm only going to speak for how I receive it.
Yeah.
So like a chin up is like, what's up?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A head down is like, you good? And that's how I receive that. Those are just two different questions. Like a head up might be like, what's going on here, man?
Yeah, what's currently happening?
Yeah, what's going on? Yeah. Right? But the other one is just saying, I'm just checking in with you as a human, you straight? And that's how I receive those.
I've got a question I ask people in passing. It's a 30-second conversation, and it's weird. A lot of people, I think, don't really know how to respond or what I'm actually asking them. I'm always asking them, what's for dinner? What are you having for dinner? I want an answer. Like, I want to know, like, are you going to just hit a drive-through? You got a kid's soccer game? Like, you can learn a lot about somebody's day, somebody's motivations, what their interests are, just what they're having for dinner tonight.
Now, Doug, if you ask me what's for dinner, I'm mad at you because I'm going to tell you why.
You don't want to...
No, because I don't know.
Oh.
My wife knows.
See,
I don't even know.
Then I know. Then I know that's your wife's lane. Then
wait.
Say, whatever my wife makes me, that's that.
Well, that probably would be the answer, and it's not necessarily what she's gonna make me, but it's gonna be like it's gonna be like, all right, tonight we having pizzas from Pizza
you guys
King.
Talk about it before you leave in the morning.
No.
It's a surprise.
I get informed at some point. Mm-hmm. Is what I'm going to say. When we connect throughout the day, at some point she informs me this is what's happening, and then she'll be nice enough to ask me, are you cool with that? But I don't think she cares at the end of the day because she's going to do what she want to do. No.
Shout out to Pizza King. I had it last night for dinner.
Oh, yeah. Pizza King. Oh, man. Big shout out to Pizza King.
It was a total kerfuffle. I ordered 2 pizzas. My wife ordered 2 pizzas, so we had 4 pizzas.
Oh, wow, man.
4 people.
Did you freeze some of that?
It's in the fridge right now. I mean, I got it all cooked.
Oh, okay.
Right? So it was her parents and me and her. Her and me. Yeah. We had just way too much pizza, but there's really no such thing, especially from Pizza King.
Hey, facts. So, okay, first of all, let me just say, how do you feel about this? I mean, is that legit?
The head nod?
Well, we went head nod, but I mean the whole people asking questions that they don't really want the answers to me. And then I love where we went with the head nod because I do think there is power in that level of communication. But here's the thing that might be the problem with the head nod. I don't think that can work across genders.
Okay.
Right? Because I don't know. Like, I've only traded the head nod only to me. Done this with other dudes. Right? Now, if it crosses genders, maybe that messaging is received differently or the communication is different.
I think that this is, I mean, you would need to do a real serious amount of research on this, but I think there's solutions in other cultures. Two that come to mind immediately are salutes and bows.
I like salutes.
Salutes and bows.
See, but bows, then people sometimes feel as disrespectful because they think it's cultural. I should have this at the tip of my tongue. When you're taking something from a culture.
Appropriation.
Appropriation.
Sure. When in the service industry, I would meet a job I had out in Arizona, Eastern culture, Eastern European cultures, things are different. Touching, length, like distance between each other, eye contact, things like that. I would do a little research if there was a culture I wasn't familiar with, and I would just sort of adopt their culture a little bit. Right. For instance, bowing lower than the person that you're bowing to. But I'm just saying that your conundrum or your little social mishap that you've discovered, there's probably clues in other cultures that we could be helping breaking down the symptoms and what we want to get to as a solution.
Now, I like the bowing as a solution where instead of this whole verbal interaction of, hey, how was your weekend kind of thing, and we just saw each other and we just gave a real deep bow and we kept it moving, like I would think that would be fabulous.
And I'm horribly annoying. So Middle Eastern culture, two peers that respect each other will just hold hands down the street. So I'd love to hold your hand while we walk down the street, hold your hand when we walk down the street. Our culture is really not as much into that, right?
Yeah, they're not, but I'm not against it. People will get over it. All right. Woo, we dug in. All right. You know what? We got to push this episode along.
Sure.
What's next?
So what we're doing now is a honey sizer. So it's a little bit higher ABV. It's a 9.2% ABV, so it's a little sneaky. So a sizer is a fancy term for half cider, half mead. So you're getting half the fermentables from the cider and half of it from the honey. So the honey, Doug, do you want to say where we got the honey from?
Absolutely. Really great group. A lot of people know, I'm sure a lot of your listeners know, how important honeybees are to our ecosystem as far as consumers of plants. Our entire civilization is, what do they say, 3 meals away from chaos, right?
Right.
Endangering bees and the important work they do for our species, is a world we don't really want to meddle too much in. This Oshkosh, UWO's Oshkosh Sustainable Beekeeping Society, they have 30,000 bees that were dormant over the winter right on the Fox River down there on campus. We ran into them. I think the president or vice president happened to come in one day. I checked his ID. He was of age. We got to talking. I knew that it would be great I've had sizers before. I know what they are. To get our hands on some of their honey. They didn't really have a honey program, right? They take the honey once in a while. They would put it in jars and they would, do nothing with it, right? I was able to secure, they had seasons worth of honey, of 5 gallons of their honey.
What?
Which was, we worked out, so we didn't really buy it off of them. We donated to UWO as a thank you for it, right? But I'm pretty sure they were grant funded when they first started, but we did work with them, encourage them. They got their own 501c3. I'm really excited that they did that. We got a specialty label made for it, and it has a QR code that takes you to their website. They can accept direct donations now. So if you or someone wants to support bees as locally as we possibly can imagine here in Oshkosh, that is the group to do it to. the sizer in your hand, in your mouth right now.
Facts.
It's super good. Really crisp and clean. We boiled some of the juice unfermented, dissolved that honey into it. What happens is yeast loves honey, right? It ferments it fast. And what happens is it tastes similar to what you're having, but it has a heat to it when you exhale. So
it's boozy early on.
We aged that for 10 months from December of 22 until October of 23, bottled it, had a big blast off release party at Oblio's with the Beekeepers Society. It's through a kegger where we got cash at the door to anybody who wanted to come support them. They raised $300, I want to say, that night for their group. I made sure that they understood that they needed to eat something before they came out. This stuff's 9% alcohol. It definitely gets to you faster than the kegs of Beast Light we grew up on.
Yeah, let's just say on bottling day, we have to drink our mistakes. And on the day that we bottled this, our wives had to come pick us up.
Hey, I don't know if that's that sounds like a good problem to have.
At 9.2%.
But at this point,
sneaky.
it's nearly, 2 years old now? It's really
very
smooth. It's
you
really
get almost no
easy to
alcohol.
drink.
It's dangerous.
Yeah. No, this is smooth.
You don't notice that 9%.
And well, not at all. Wait. No, until you said it, it wouldn't have made sense to me because I was really just tasting the undertone of the honey.
Mm-hmm.
The honey's fun.
Yeah, like it's just nice. Okay.
There's stuff in honey that the yeast actually can't eat. So there is part of the honey the yeast loves, and then there's this part of the honey that the yeast can't consume. So you get this sweetness, this slipperiness from the honey in your mouth. It's very good.
I don't have a good pairing for this one though, because I just like honey.
Yeah.
As is. So what would I maybe drink this with? Literally like some toast with some honey on it.
Just drizzled some honey. Yeah.
Have you ever had brie and honey together?
No.
Treat yourself.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't really like brie that much,
Okay.
but when you put honey on it, it becomes something else. And it's really, really tasty.
Okay. Well, maybe that's the match.
Pair it with a brie. I could get behind that.
Okay. So let's move on to the next segment. The next segment is, and now we got a deep dive. We're going to deep dive into this for a while. All right. Next segment is called 21 Questions. 21 Questions is I'm going to ask you some questions. We don't have 21 of them, but these questions are so deep that they might cause 21 answers. These are really good. This is something where we get to really dig into who you both are. And so I'm going to start off with the first question. And the first question is, what are you grateful for?
So I'm probably going to pick what people say is a cheesy answer, but I'm going to go with my wife. I am so grateful for my wife. She is so supportive of us and this whole thing. This started years ago, 8-9 years ago with me and Doug transforming my basement into basically a small cidery and crushing apples. And it's taken a lot of time and resources and just my time. And she's been nothing but supportive the whole time and just letting us take over our house and just pushing us along. Like I would say when we thought about, hey, should we go finally? Is it now the time to go professional? She's like, absolutely. What we're doing is kind of crazy. I mean, the money that we're throwing at this and trying to grow this thing, it's all just, pie in the sky. And she said, go for it. And so I'm going to go with my wife as I'm very grateful for. So shout out to my wife, Tara.
So many things to be thankful for. Absolutely. I have been blessed with this gorgeous baby since November. He's healthy. He is blowing my mind every time I look at him. It is crazy, crazy. Got to thank my beautiful wife, Allison, for supporting me in not only the cider, but the journey that, we all go through as men and as people dealing with, even inadequacies, right? Being held up when you're feeling vulnerable, when you're beat down, right? Like a big shout out to my wife, all the local businesses that helped us get to where we are. You said, we literally can't even count. Like we would be nowhere without the generosity of the people that helped us navigate how to get to where we are right now. On a much more big level, I mean, the world is a crazy place right now. We got scary things happening all over the world, and I am very grateful to be able to live a life free from fear fear from aggression and danger when I just walk out the door. I was thinking, man, yeah, what a mess, with some of the happenings that are going on around the world, that we are really just very lucky to be able to just exist, right?
Go after our dreams.
not be influenced by fear, and to be able to pursue what we want to see in the world.
What motivates you?
For me, it is I call them the aha moments. Doug talked about, when you could talk about this cider, and I love to talk cider when you get me going, obviously, and we could tell you about it, and then we get it in your hand. And people that have never had our cider before, or not really had a cider, like a dry cider, West Coast, East Coast cider, this look on their face when they're like, what the heck did I just, what is this? Like, what? That aha moment on their face, just, I still get goosebumps when that happens, and that motivates me.
That aha moment is the reason we continue to do it. I'm going to copy his answer, but I also have my own. So just knowing that there's work to be done to get it into more people's hands is definitely a very serious challenge in the Fox Valley. So just knowing that there's work to be done motivates me. I was walking. Then the other story is, the other thing that motivates me, I realized this the other day at work, is I was walking through the warehouse where I'm a material handler, and I came across an employee that was doing something that she doesn't normally do, but is more in line with what I do. And I asked her what was going on, and she explained what her problem she was dealing with was. And, we walked through a couple different ideal solutions of what we could do in that moment. And so then she decided what she wanted to do. I helped her do it. It took me 5 minutes, right? Probably saved her 20 minutes. And it was really small, but just passing by, taking the time to help. She's like, why are you so awesome? And in my brain, I didn't say it out loud, but I just want my family to be proud of me. I want my wife and my kid to be like, my dad's that guy. So that definitely motivates me, help me get to where I know I want to be.
I love that. What grounds you?
So kayaking. I'm going to go with kayaking. As I mentioned, Oshkosh is just gorgeous from the water. I mean, it's gorgeous in town, but when you're kayaking down the river or out on Lake Winnebago, there's just something about it. My brain never stops. I probably drive my wife crazy. I'm just constantly moving. I just can never get settled in my day. I'm always on a mission. When I'm out in my kayak, there's nothing but me in the water in my kayak, and probably a cider between my legs, but that I'm sipping on. But just being out there, sometimes I'll just hang on to a branch along the shore of Winnebago and just stare out into it. Sometimes I'll go around Pioneer Island, or go by Butamore Bridge, but just kayaking just grounds me. It's my safe place. I love it.
A little bit to touch on the world moves so fast now. Whatever you're doing, you're really on your way to your next thing. It seems like it is like way too hard sometimes to just slow down and stop the thing that's moving so fast. And the thing that I reflect on and that grounds me, that I think is the answer to this question, is, unfortunately, I don't think it's happening, or I don't realize it's happening every time it's happening, but connecting with friends and family, and sharing a time and talking, and your family, what do they say? Your family are the people that know everything about you but love you anyways, right? And so you get to be your most authentic self and connect and hear them, like the connection of a friend you've had for a long time. And unfortunately for me, I don't realize it until I'm going to bed that night and I think about, what did I do today? What did they say? You know what I mean? And, slowing down and having that connection is probably the closest I can get to being grounded.
What does success look like to you?
So I'll kind of echo what Doug was saying before, of how, lucky we are to just wake up every day and not be in fear. And, and my basic needs are taken care of, that I can go after this dream. So I feel very privileged already, but success to me is simply, we'd love to get like a tap room or some kind of place in town. Doug's the chef, so I really want to get our cider with food, and I just want to have a local establishment that just kind of pays our bills and just lets us just live in this community and just enjoy time, and just kind of get to this stable kind of community driven, which we kind of have at that tasting room, but kind of just growing that. So probably just kind of taking what we have, but just adding a little bit. We don't want to go national. Maybe we'll distribute as far as the state and within the state, but yeah, just like a very successful, just little community place is what we want. That's success to me. That I would feel like we made it if we did that.
I guess to speak specifically about the cider, what success looks like to me is one stage of that success would be, and it's been a goal since we opened our doors, is when people in the Fox Valley think of cider, they think of our competitors. They think of the sweet ones that we want to be different from. I want them to think of us. I want them to identify that they have a cider experience here in the Fox Valley that is their own, right? We've taken some of their feedback. We got up to that 3% rhubarb, lavender, agave sweetness, right? We're coming from where we were and sort of morphing into something that we know that there's an audience for here in the Fox Valley. We want people to be excited about our cider, and that they can go and they say, yeah, I know cider. Like I had some guy come in, he's like, yeah, I've had cider before, and like I kind of thought he meant like the Angry Orchard type, you know what I mean? He's like, yeah, I was out in Vermont, and I was like, oh,
yeah, you've had cider.
You've had cider before then, right? On a more holistic, like what is the human experience? What does success look like to me? Is the happiness and like the absence of anxiety from just knowing I did my best. I think probably how I know I'm being successful in doing what I'm doing.
What irritates you?
So I'm going to go kind of with the pet peeve part of that, and it's not, no one's ever trying to be mean when they say this stuff. They're trying to actually be supportive. They are, when they find out that we do cider, people just naturally want to connect with you with their experience. And so I think the one thing that always gets me is either when people say, oh, you brew or you're brewing. I'm like, no, there's actually no heat in it. We're making wine. But the one that really gets me, and it's silly, is when people are like, oh, I love cider. My favorite cider is Reds. And I'm like, yeah, that's artificially flavored apple beer. That's not, so that the Reds apple ale, every time I hear, oh, that's my favorite cider, it's like, but that's also the perfect opportunity, right? To educate, talk about, and say, hey, here's a bottle, try this. But I don't know, something about Red's apple ale, it always comes up in conversation, is that people being their favorite cider. It's like, no, that's an apple flavored beer.
I got two things, and they're typically from people who I'm working with, whether I'm requesting a service from them or I'm working with them at my job, they're subordinate, or they're my supervisor, or they're my peer, something. No. When people say no, that drives me nuts, because the answer is always yes. How do we get there is what I try to impart that on my subordinates, is whatever the person is asking you for, the answer is yes. We just need to figure out how to get there. So just being told no drives me nuts. And with regulators, that is a word that you hear from time to time. So that kind of irks me in a way. And then the other thing that irks me in a way is that's not my job. If somebody says that's not my job, whether it's a coworker or, anybody that you're asking to get a problem solved, if they say that's not my job, it feels like a dead end. They're putting up a roadblock. Usually we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to make this thing work, whatever it is. So I don't like accepting no's, and I don't like accepting that's not my job.
What scares you?
Probably just the big one that everyone worries about, just screwing it up, right? The things just keep going so well. I just feel so lucky with all this, and things just keep falling into place perfectly for us. Like even just like being on this podcast, like things like this just come up and they hit us, and we're honored, and we've gotten so far. We're so far, and we have so far to go. I just don't want to screw it up. So I think that's what keeps me up at night. It's just like, don't screw this up. Like, you have a good thing going.
I've seen it a few times lately. I don't know if it's a sign of economics or what it is. The last 2 times I've gone to Walgreens to pick up something that I need for my household, a customer in front of me at the cashier cannot purchase the thing that they need, right? They don't have the prescription. They don't have the money. It's scary to see inequity and inaccess in your community. And it's I guess that scares me in a weird way, that it certainly doesn't keep me up, but the fact that we don't have solutions to some of these problems is definitely off-putting to me.
What recharges your soul?
So, I mean, part of getting into cider was just another outlet of just I had problems in my life or just, stresses in my life. And it gave me a lot of control of having this thing that, working with Doug, like we're, the executive of it. We, any problem that comes up is ours to solve. And so that kind of started it. And then we actually hooked up with this orchard in Maple Valley Orchards out of Swamico, and they have all these heirloom varieties. So we're going to try one of these heirloom ciders in a little bit, but we have this year's cider has over 300 apples. This last one we're going to try has over 100. But these apples, like some of them go back to the 1600s, Russia and France, and 1700s, like New York. Like my favorite one, Pink Pearl. It's yellowish, pinkish on the outside with blue spots and pink flesh inside. So I get to walk this orchard by myself. I feel like I'm in a time machine, and I get to just see all these apples, and just like every tree is a little different, whether it's ripe or not. So just being out in that orchard and picking is just kind of me being out in my element, and that really recharges. It's exhausting to pick that many apples, but I find myself feeling charged when I excited about leaving that orchard with a whole truckload of apples back there. Like, it just recharges. It's just something about being in that orchard that recharges me.
I had a long time ago, in one of my many years of non-traditional student at Fox Valley Tech, I had an assignment from Mary Beth Vogler, who was it was a gen ed. She challenged the students to go out and document 20 random acts of kindness that they could provide somebody in passing. And so it required a couple things, right? It required the ability to help. But ultimately, I think the hardest barrier, and I think the point of the lesson was, you got to keep your eyes open, your ears open, and be aware of what's going on around you. When I mentioned that thing at Walgreens, right? One was a couple, their debit card was being declined. They were trying to buy children's cough medicine, right? This is January, we'll say. It's cold flu season, right? This kid's miserable at home. It's a $15 thing of kids' medicine. The other one was a young woman had a couple things in her cart. One of them was a baby shampoo, right? And she said to the cashier, she's like, I've been looking everywhere for this. I can't find it anywhere, but I'm glad you have it. I can't even buy it right now. I'm going to have to come back for it. She was getting all of her other stuff, but it was like $12 for this baby shampoo. And just like the ability to be like, I'm going to buy that for you. I mean, I'm tooting my horn or whatever, but you gotta keep your eyes open and be open to the idea of helping a stranger, and just do it and get out of there, right? So being that guy and being able to step up and make a material difference in somebody's day, in somebody's week, in somebody's outlook on life, definitely gives me a reason to keep going. That I don't know what, I'm going to have opportunities to matter. It really puts this pep in my step when I can find the opportunity and do it.
How do you define love?
So I think it comes from a place of empathy, selflessness. It's just like kind of going all in with like nothing, no motives behind it, right? That to me is like true love. It's just, how do you describe it? Yeah, man, what a hard question. But just, it's pure, and it's selfless, and it has no alter like any motives other than just pureness of love. So that's probably how I describe love.
This one's tough. This is a tough answer, a tough question, right? I just got married a year and a half ago, so I was doing a little contemplation within the last few years about what love is, how would I define it, what are characteristics. Obviously, patience, support. Love is evolving, right? But ultimately, I think the thing that I knew I could do in the world of love for my wife was that I can give it. So it's all those things, all these things that we identify, but it's the act of giving it is what I would say is the most important part of the love.
One last question, and that is this. What is the most valuable lesson that was shared with you from a parent, a guardian, or a mentor?
Yeah, that's a hard one too, but probably just what I really appreciated from my folks growing up is they taught just like self-responsible, like just being responsible for yourself, and just it kind of goes beyond just like following rules, but just like owning your actions and just speaking your truth. And owning up to mistakes and just like, it's okay. Like, you don't have to have this like fake facade. You can be a real person. You can have real feelings. You can screw up. You can be angry. You can apologize. But just this, like, you are responsible for you. Like, they instilled that to me early on, and they allowed me, you know, to do like adult things younger. Like there's nothing stopping you. Just your age is not, you know, and they really taught me that from an early age. So just owning yourself and just really being responsible for your own actions and just being truthful and real.
I remember 2 lessons I have from a job I have out in, or there, I don't know what the right word is, values. One is you don't point out a problem unless you can provide a solution to the problem as well in the same sentence, right? Whether it's work or your house or wherever, like, it's easy to nag, it's easy to find negative things to talk about, but coming up with a solution for that is, you know, it was a great lesson because it's easy to complain. Unless you're coming with a solution, take it somewhere else, right?
Right.
At that same job, you were not allowed to tell a guest no, right? You could say, I'll look into that, right? Or I'll try to get something ball rolling on that. On a much more, I don't know what, we were all young. We all made mistakes. We all did things we're not proud of. I remember specifically sitting in the car after one of such event with my dad and him taking, you know, having exhausted all of his resources, right? Like, man, I never wanted to be bad, right? I never wanted to be a jerk to people. That was not my goal when I was leaving the house. But ultimately he's like, man, I don't care if you get in trouble, if people like it or not, but like, just be nice to people. Just be nice. And I don't know why. It seems like such an easy lesson. I was 16, but like that moment really sticks with me, and it guides me as an adult and as a human being. I think we learn a lot of lessons when we're young. It's just, do we remember to apply them to the situations we get ourselves into?
And you have now survived 21 questions. Okay, Spencer, I'm going to let you tell us about the next thing.
So our next cider is elderberry cider. We call it our Christine Ann Center elderberry. Elderberry is a very wine-like berry. It's used for centuries in wines, especially like French wines and stuff like that. And the reason it's called Christine Ann Center elderberry is Doug was looking for an opportunity. We look for opportunities to give back to the community. And Christine Ann Center Domestic Abuse Services in Oshkosh is an amazing organization. And Doug wanted to do a cider, and it was the month was right. They were doing Men That Cook, their event. Purple is kind of their color, and we had this elderberry just aging for a really long time, and it finally was tasting perfect, and it just seemed like it was meant to be. So we reached out, we raised some money, $1 of every bottle goes to the Christine Ann Center, and what was fun was we also got out to the bars, and the bars were able to donate money to the Christine Ann Center. So this one's been pretty fun. Doug, do you have anything to add with Men That Cook? That was a pretty fun night that we got to hand that check over.
I can't believe you did not quote the Monty Python when you're talking about elderberries. I don't know.
We'll let people look that one up.
Yeah, the quote from, which one is it? I don't remember.
Quest for the Holy Grail. Yeah, elderberries come up.
Yeah, it was. We sold the kegs to the bars. They donated directly $100 to Christine Ann Center. They covered the cost of the juice and the keg, and then they also donated $100. So we were able to raise about $600, I want to say, for the Christine Ann Center. Purple is the color of domestic abuse awareness. So it's not necessarily their color, it's just the cause's color.
Yeah.
Shout out to Alicia.
Big shout out to Alicia. She is a Kosh alum.
So we actually struck up this conversation at the Sizer release party. So she was out there supporting us that night, and that's where we got to talking. We had a little liquid grease to loosen up the bravery of having the conversation. And I was gonna offer to make it sweeter than it currently is, wondering what her profile she was looking for, or what she thought maybe would fit the situation the best. And she said, nope, I know you guys are focused on a drier cider. I totally get what you guys are doing. I think this tastes great just the way it is. I want it to be your cider just as much as it's our cider. So thank you for believing in the vision. And I'm in love with this cider. I think it tastes great. It's got the fermented elderberries that were grown west of town. Do you remember the group we got?
Purple Haze Orchard.
Thank you very much. Family farm. We back sweetened it with an elderberry juice I ordered through the co-op that is infused with elder flower. So there's like a little aromatic nose to it when you exhale out your nose. And then it's got a little bit of agave nectar in that juice as well. So just all around quality product, quality ingredients. I think this one is as good as it gets with us right now.
All right. We are ready for the next segment. Are y'all two ready?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, next segment is word association. This is your opportunity. I'm going to say a word, and you two are going to share what comes to your mind. Now, we have a tradition here on the Kosh, and that is this. There is one word we always start with. It is the word of family. It is the word of unity. It is the word of community. It is the word that makes you smile when you say it, and that word is always food. What do you got for us?
You know, echoing what we said before, food and cider are just meant to be get together. So for me, it's we did a pairing with Beckett's, and we did a cider pairing with the Howard, and working with those chefs with our product. That's what always comes to mind with food is right away cider and food and cider. Yeah. What comes to your mind, Doug?
I have an abnormal relationship with food, right? Based on my profession and all the years that I've been around it. Absolutely family connection, all the things. Everybody eats, right? But I really I did not like the phrase culinary arts. Even while I was going to school, I did not like the phrase culinary arts.
Oh, okay. Why?
It sounded so pretentious to me.
Bruh. All right.
And it I don't know. I feel like food shouldn't be a source of anxiety or elevating oneself, right? It's food. Everybody eats it. Best case scenario, my life's work turns to poop. I like to joke. But
oh my God, that's so good.
But when I left culinary school and I started talking to people who weren't professionals, right, I realized that I had an understanding of a palette of colors, textures, flavors that I'm putting into a marriage with each other to create a dish. And so I kind of understood it at that point a little bit better, that because I would talk to somebody whose idea of cooking is grilled cheese, right? Now, there's anything wrong with that, but like when I'm trying to make a menu for this restaurant, right, and they're asking me why things are the way they are, so what I think of when I think of food, I think of the mouth palate, how it is engaged, how juxtaposition works on the plate, whether it's color, texture, creamy, crunchy, salty, fatty, all the things. So the palate is what comes to mind.
There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not going to say. You know what? I'm going to let you know is, Doug, I just felt attacked by the grilled cheese statement.
I did exactly what I was criticizing people for. No. So I acknowledge that. I'm sorry.
I'm just playing. Hey, I don't even make a grilled cheese, so I love grilled cheese, though.
Oh, yeah.
There's an art to a grilled cheese. My wife's got it dialed in. She uses two different kinds of cheeses, one melted. So I don't know. That's close.
You want to share what's going on with the grilled cheese?
So she always does two cheeses. Does like the traditional like American cheese that you would just see where you take it out of the plastic. So the cheaper cheese, and then we always do more expensive, like what we normally get like a cheese from Wagner's or something, like a really sharp cheddar. And she normally does it on sourdough. And she's gluten free, so we found this gluten free sourdough bread. So when I think of grilled cheese, I think of my wife's grilled cheese, and it makes me happy.
Can I say grilled cheese?
Yeah. What's your favorite grilled cheese?
All right. Another local shout out, Thunderbird Bakery. If you haven't got them on your podcast before, go ahead.
Are you kidding? They had an episode way back in the day. Like, they're early.
See, I'm a loser.
We got mad love for them, Trent and whatnot. Yeah.
My bad. So, Thunderbird sourdough, I will spread, is it Leclerc goat cheese, the herb one, on one piece of the bread, and I will do an aged sharp cheddar on the other. Here's the curveball is when you're done grilling each side, kimchi, close it up. Kimchi's cold, crunchy, acidic.
Right.
Everything else is hot, creamy, buttery, really goes, it works.
Okay, you just changed the game with that one. You threw me with the kimchi, but I now must try this. I must have some. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it is super good. I don't do tomato soup with my grilled cheese.
No, I didn't, because I feel like the basis of everybody's tomato soup is based on Campbell's. But I'm going to tell you where the real tomato soup fire is, at least in a can, is Progresso. Progresso has this one called Hearty Tomato. Man, let me tell you, Campbell's better watch their back. That stuff is good. I don't even like tomato soup, but I like this tomato soup.
Okay.
I think it's Amy's. Is that the one that comes in that cardboard quart?
Oh,
and
yeah.
they've got a Pacific, thank you. A red pepper tomato that I think is pretty good.
Now, see, I'm all about that life.
They got that at Co-op or NDC.
Okay. Well, this one seems like I shouldn't even ask, but I'm going to have to ask because it is the Kosh tradition, and that is cocktail or beer.
That's hard for us because we love beer. We started like originally a Society of Brewers, so we have a big appreciation for beer. We like to joke a lot of good beer sometimes has to get drank to make good cider. So I'm torn. And then the other thing that we've been doing this week, the cocktail, the West Coast thing is cider cocktails. So we've been trying to bring that to the Fox Valley. Doug, what you want to tell them what we're doing with Winners?
Winners has taken on our new blueberry basil, the brainchild of this guy. We could talk about how that's made, but ultimately it's got blueberries and basil in it, right? We tried it with a little Bacardi Limon, lemon and blueberry. They're friends. So that cocktail was really light and refreshing. They took it up a level. They added some lemonade into it, and then I'm not sure what he's using for liquor in it, but they have an interesting, it's a tap system that they make their cocktails in a tiny little keg, in a 5-gallon keg.
Okay.
And they just have cocktails or shots on tap.
And ready to go.
So we've been talking with Taylor at Winners, who is definitely passionate about craft beer and is very engaged when you're talking to him about what's going on. And so I've presented a few cocktails to him, and I don't think they all landed very well, or like got where we wanted them to be. He had this, and he just set the glass down, and I thought it was going to be another one. He's like, yeah, that's good, but whatever. He's just like, that's pretty good. So I felt like, ooh, there's success, right? Going back to that previous question.
Yeah.
And he took on 3.5 gallons, and he mixed up a cocktail. So down at Winners, they've got a really refreshing early summer, late spring style. If it's 75 degrees out there and not too windy and not too humid, that thing's going to hit the spot.
Okay. Now, Spencer, I'm going to answer the question for you. When I say cocktail or beer, you were supposed to be like, neither, cider, fool. No.
I knew you were going to say that, but it's like, no, a lot of good beer has to get drank to make cider. I mean,
I like that statement. That is such a good statement. All right. Well, you know what? Now that I know that there's some, and let me just go ahead, because I'm not being timber if I'm not throwing this out here. Throughout this whole journey and this conversation of cider, if you don't think I want something crafted on behalf of the Kosh,
cider?
the Kosh we need a cider.
Yeah,
we need
Sturgeon
something.
Spirits gave you the Kosh cocktail.
We have a Kosh cocktail.
We got to have a Kosh cider.
We were having that conversation with Carl here, and you said, we need to listen up, Oshkosh. We need a Kosh cocktail. We started brainstorming a cocktail, and however many iterations that we were going to call the Kosh, only to find out he swiped it out from underneath.
It's because it's meant to be. I think we should do a Kosh cider. We were talking this last week. I think blackberry, right? We were
yeah. Well, actually, that is. I got to create it. I actually got to create it, and it's a take. It's a take or a spin-off of what is my favorite cocktail at Sturgeon Spirits, which was called the Perfect Pair. And basically, it is a perfect pair, but instead with the blackberry vodka, because I liked the blackberry vodka. It was so good, even more than the pear. And so, like, if there's an opportunity for something blackberry.
What about, so when you were in the cidery too, you seem to have an affinity for some of our spicy ciders.
Yes. Well, see, and that's the thing about the Kosh cocktail, because it has habanero. Yeah. Right? And I do. And you know what? I like things that warm the heart, literally.
Bruh. Yeah, when you're giving us the hot cider, you can really feel it in your chest and your throat. Blackberry with bit of Carolina Reaper pepper. Is that too hot? What do you think?
We might want to go a level down.
Yeah.
To Habos. I'm thinking Habos.
I got a chocolate habanero cider right now.
Now see we're talking.
That's in your wheelhouse?
Actually, that sounds perfect. if there was something with this cider with some blackberries and a chocolate habanero, that there sounds like the Kosh.
So part of the dynamic that Spencer and I have developed is that he is the cider maker, right?
Right.
He has the ultimate decision making, because when at the end of the day, if we need a decision made, we just need to trust each other to do it. So there's certain things that I make decisions on. There's certain things he makes decisions on. Yes, we could get some blackberries and put it in there, but I want to try getting some oak cubes and putting blackberry brandy on them and aging those onto the cider.
Oh, character. Look, yeah, let's do it.
And then we can, if we want to kick it up with a little heat after that, we'll figure out how to get from A to B.
Well, we'll dial it in. We will, but your view or your listeners get to hear it first. There will be a Kosh cider that will come out at some time. We got to do it.
Yeah, hey, I appreciate that, and this is how real things happen.
No, this is actually a lot of flavors. The story behind lots of flavors is just randomness like this, and it's fun. I love this part of it.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? What was the statement you said earlier? Good cider is made behind a lot of beers. No,
yeah, it's a lot of beer to make good cider.
And in this case, there's been multiple ciders to make good cider. Hopefully, what will be good cider in the future. So I'm excited about that partnership. Hey, y'all are the professionals. Let me know if it happes.
Yeah, can we put your logo on the side? Can we put Kosh approved?
Oh my God, yes, yes. Can I? Because then I've got to mention it on every episode because that's how that works.
Yeah.
Shop local.
For me, it's Wagner's. It's right down the street for me. I love having a local market that just has like all this local stuff. And my pet peeve is actually another pet peeve we were talking about before was buying lettuce. I always buy lettuce. I put it in the fridge. I don't know if everyone's like this. And then like a day later, you pull it out and it's slimy. I love buying Wagner's lettuce because they grow it hydroponically fresh in town. And there's just something about like that lettuce will stay good for like 2 weeks in my fridge. And that's just like, that to me is like the epitome of shop local is like, this is literally grown here and I'm eating it. And I bought it down the street.
For me, working at that co-op, I got to like really see up close what it meant.
Oshkosh Food Co-op, yeah.
Yeah, the Oshkosh Food Co-op. Sorry. Thank you. What they hammered in is the compounding dollar, right?
Right.
Where you spend your money in your community so it stays in your community.
Right.
You look at some other models of businesses, and I'm comfortable, I guess, saying it, like the Dollar General, right? You spend $1 there, it leaves your community almost instantly. If you can invest in your community, why not, right? It all, with the rising tide, all ships rise, right? So that partnership of being able to know that when I support that farm, they're going to support their neighbor, they're going to support their shop that they love downtown, and it's going to help raise everybody by trying to keep that dollar in town as much as you can.
Streaming.
Right now, I'm binging Shogun, which is
I think that's on Hulu.
Yeah, it's on Hulu, and it's early Japan where the Portuguese have come over with Catholics, have been there for like 10 years, and then the Protestant English are just starting to show up, and just the dynamics of that religion and then Japanese culture I've always find really interesting. So I've been binging that, and then me and my wife have been watching Resident Alien on Netflix. I don't know, it's pretty funny, and it's easy, lighthearted. I've been binging on that.
See, if it was association, I would have definitely expected him to say like rivering or laking. But as far as what I'm streaming, every night when I go to bed, I will set the TV for a 15 or 30-minute timer, and I will watch American Dad. I think that is one of the funniest cartoons that you can not pay attention to or you can pay attention to. The characters change from year to year to year. It's a great show. I can't say enough good things about the songs they write. It's just fun. But ultimately, I don't find a lot of time for streaming personally. So I will say what little streaming time I do have is probably Winnie the Pooh. Obviously is not really ingesting media yet. My boy is definitely entranced by the color and the shape. And I guess I'm not into the Paw Patrol universe yet. And if he's not really absorbing... Man, Cocomelon, man, that is really hard for me to sit through.
You sound like a dad.
It glues him to the TV, which is like what you need sometimes for like a half hour at a time. But I connect with the Winnie the Pooh universe, I guess, a little bit, maybe obviously from my childhood and nostalgia. But I think it's just a cute group of characters that are, what's the right word? They're monoliths. They're the one thing, right? They're the one emotion from the kid, from Christopher Robin, is Pooh's curious, he's hungry, right?
Facts.
And so it's you can watch it as an adult, and still enjoy it as a kid, I suppose.
Oh,
I never knew Winnie the Pooh was so deep.
no, Winnie the Pooh is deep.
Yeah,
he teaches you all sorts of lessons. And the characters, because, when you
Piggy,
compare it to, like,
Piglet,
Eeyore, Piglet,
Rabbit and Owl.
Tigger, like, those characters are people in your lives. Right, and how do you interact with them, and what do they bring? Where's the value they bring in your community?
I feel like they're all, I don't know, maybe this is too they're all in you. They're all characters. There's the goofy fun tigger that wants to play. There's the, the owl that wants to be the expert or whatever. The rabbit who wants to be ornery, and and I don't know. I think it was a well written show for its time.
Oh yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, You are lucky. Don't be saying bad things about Paw Patrol, because that is what Bosco the podcast dog watches when we leave the house. He is very into Paw Patrol. I'm surprised he's not here right now, because
is that on Paramount? What's it on?
What, Paw Patrol? We got it on Hulu.
Okay. I was going to say, I don't think I have it, because I've babysat kids and we want to watch Paw Patrol and I can't get it.
You know what? I actually like Paw Patrol. Okay. It's decent. So me and Bosco the podcast dog, that is what I've become. Me and the podcast dog watch Paw Patrol.
I'll let us move on. We know I like joking around. That Saturday Night Live skit of somebody who's running against the mayor of the Paw Patrol city. Have you seen that skit?
No.
Oh man, it's funny. He's like, it's out of control. He's got one boy heading all the fire department and the and all these things. And these dogs, they're just running through the city. We need solutions for, like, I don't know the name of the city and the thing. It's a pretty funny skit. Pretty good premise.
No, that sounds funny. Concert.
So the last concert I went to was Rage Against the Machine. Before that, it was David Byrne. And then the concerts that I love is, sometimes I go inside to the Waterfest, but you'll often find me Thursday nights in my kayak, hanging out in the river, listening to all the amazing bands that come in. So that's kind of my go-to.
Is that how you do it?
Yeah, I throw an anchor down and just listen. So I guess I'm not really paying my share, but I have gone and gotten tickets before, and it's fun inside. But outside, hanging in a kayak, watching that show, if you kind of angle yourself against Pioneer Island to your back, you can kind of, with the bridge, the railroad bridge, you can kind of see perfectly onto the stage and the lights. So it's doing that. You
know what? That is one of the most ballerist things I've heard. That is brilliant.
I don't get out much. I've realized now that I'm sitting here. You've seen a lot of concerts I didn't. I know that we got rained out on, was it a Band of Horses? We saw the Revivalists, but the Band of Horses had to leave.
Yep.
That was the last concert I went to. But before that, I would say the most memorable concert I went to was the Milwaukee Orchestra. I believe it's called the Philharmonic when it belongs to a region, but a group of musicians were doing all Zelda songs. So I went with my buddy Nathaniel, and we've gone to 2 of those concerts over the years, and they're amazing. You always get encores of different video game musics, too. It's cool.
Community.
In what sense?
Well, that's the key. It's your word association.
Probably the farmer's market. I love going down to the farmer's market and just seeing all the everything, all the different people. It just kind of feels, I probably feel community at that moment when I'm just strolling through the farmer's market, buying up all that rhubarb for our rhubarb lavender, buying out 5 different tables of rhubarb. That's fun. Community. Community is just the group of people that have a shared interest, I guess. Not necessarily like, oh, I like racquetball, right? But they share a space. They work with each other's motivations. They get to learn and know each other. Community is, it can be rich and it can be neglected. I would say community is just the connection that you have with your neighbors and the effort that you can put into understanding it and getting involved with it.
All right. We have completed word association. Okay. Next segment is called the Kosh Hidden Gems. This is your opportunity to share a hidden gem with the Kosh listeners. That a hidden gem can be something you don't think many people know about. Maybe it's something a lot of people know about, but they don't know certain details of it. Now, before we jump into the hidden gems, let's talk about this hidden gem that was freshly poured real quick. Spencer, what do you got for us?
Right now we're sipping pretty much while I'm doing this is my baby. This is our heirloom blend. This current one has over 100 apples. Next year's we'll have 300. But this has got, like I was saying before, these are the apples that we pick from July through November. They got high tannins, acid. These are cider apples that, some of them are almost like crab apples. So in there we have Duchess of Oldenburg, 1700s Russia. Early Harvest, that's 1700s from Long Island, New York. Kids Red Orange, that's 1924 New Zealand. Yellow Belly Flower, New Jersey, 1742. Edward the Seventh is in there. So there's apples named after kings and queens and early. So this to me is just near and dear to my heart. So this is just the complexity that all these apples come together. We pick them at Maple Valley Orchards in Swamico. So I have to quickly explain, apples are kind of freaks. When you plant a Macintosh apple, it's not going to be a Macintosh. It's going to be a brand new apple tree that's never existed. So through time, people have found trees that they like, and so you actually have to take a cutting of it, a graft of it, and propagate it. And so that's what they're doing up in Swamico. And so they're propagating these heirlooms that go all the way back, and we are so lucky to have access to these apples. So this is my baby.
All right, so this literally has like 100 different types.
Just drink 100 different apples. Yeah.
Oh, that's that what that taste is?
Yeah.
That is fabulous. Yeah. That is beautiful.
So like some are for like the sugar content, some are for the tannin, some are for the acid, some smokiness. So yeah, like you said, we are very lucky to have access to that apple, and I think that is this is the heirloom variety that we do year to year. It's never going to be the same as the year before, but it is like it's like the flagship, right? This is the thing that distinguishes us as the Sunken Paddle Cider Works versus Upstream or any of the other number of small cideries in Wisconsin that we love. But this is the thing that makes us a little different, is that blend of apples.
Next segment is the Kosh Hidden Gems. This is your opportunity to share that hidden gem in Oshkosh.
So I'm going to go with Golden Ocean Foods on Ohio, I think like 10th or 11th. Fun little Asian food store. I go in there and they have like little lunch specials they make. I'll pick up. There's produce in there they get fresh from Chicago every week. We get our lemongrass and ginger from there when we make our lemongrass ginger. So I love going in there, discovering fruits and veggies and things I've just never been exposed to. So every time I go in there, it's something new. And if you haven't checked it out, it's a fun little market, and they're really friendly. You don't have to know anything, because I certainly didn't when I went in there, and they help you kind of just learn about all this cool food, and it's a really fun place.
I got a handful. First one's not in Oshkosh. I hope that's okay.
Oh no, this is
the Fox Valley though.
The Kosh is bigger than the Kosh.
Town Council in Neenah, I think, is one of the most elevated food experiences I've ever had in my life, and it's certainly, I would say, the most elevated food experience in the Fox Valley. If you think you can keep up with it, drop me a note. I'll come check you out. But their food is great. Their menu is changing regularly. I would recommend making a reservation for 2 people, going to check out the vibe before you try going with like 6 people, 10 people, or anything like that. Go understand it. Help yourself to a few of the courses. It's great for celebrating. It's really, really good food. The Town Council in Neenah. Here in town, I got to go back to Winners, and I know that I've been really pushing them a lot. They have the best street tacos in Oshkosh, and
that's a strong. That's a strong statement
on that.
Taco connoisseur.
I know.
Here.
Yeah. So I wouldn't change a single thing about these things. It is the Mexican style. They have American style, but I prefer the Mexican style.
Yes.
With steak, it's corn tortillas fried on a flat top, chopped steak, green salsa verde, onions, and cilantro. It's simple. It's perfect. It also happens to be right by my house. So I love the opportunity to just be able to walk down there, grab a beer. They have great beers on tap. Those tacos, do not mess around. I can get in and out, have those tacos in 20 minutes. I know that I can stop plugging it when I have to wait for those tacos. Then I'm going to regret it. But everybody's got to go put on their shoes, Get those tacos.
Let me just say, Doug, challenge accepted.
And then there's a guy I met through an acquaintance. He's got his own YouTube channel. It's called Average Joe Adventures. He's doing that as a passion project. He's got his day job. He'd love to get some sponsorships, get some outdoor gear together and make that a little bit more legitimate, get some brand deals. But right now is really early in his exploration of that. I would say go give him a watch. He puts a lot of my values into what he does. And I definitely appreciate the work that he does for his YouTube channel. Average Joe Adventures.
All right, that definitely sounds like something I can get into. I'm not gonna lie, I'm hung up on this whole street taco thing.
Okay.
I'm gonna put it to the challenge. I am a taco connoisseur. I know tacos, and I know this region, and I think that I know fine tacos in this region. Right now, my taco champion is the Diablo food truck. You can catch Diablo's food truck when they put it down. They handle their business. But now, I will be happy if this is true. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go put it to test.
Could you put a link to the Diablo taco truck thing on this podcast?
Absolutely.
I'll check it out, and I'll make sure I can try to find them where they're going to be.
Oh, well, they actually do have a brick and mortar.
Okay.
They do have a brick and mortar. Let me tell you how good Diablo's taco truck is. Timber turned 50. Guess who was at Timber's 50th? The food truck, right. Diablo's, and they were fabulous. They did a great job. So, yep, no doubt. I'm all about that. Okay. So, now for the really fun, my favorite segment here on the Kosh, and that is this. It is story time. This is an opportunity for our guests to share a story with the Kosh listeners. That story can be about absolutely anything. All right. And you can make the choice. You each can tell a story, or you can tell a shared story. How would you like to get down?
I would like to talk about the first time I met Timber and didn't even realize it. Maybe you can help me tell the story, but part of the story is we love making fools of ourselves. We don't mind making a fools to sell cider, so we like to take ourselves less seriously. And we always do like an opening video. My wife helped me make a really funny one last year when we opened back up because we closed during the winter. This year we made just a silly video, and it actually goes all the way back to when I first met you and didn't even know. Back in 2012, we were at Cranky Pat's, and that was in 2012, the summer. That was the age of the Harlem Shake.
Oh,
so,
bruh, facts.
So probably aging ourselves a little bit, but to me, that was just such a goofy little flash of time, and I'm afraid of even that YouTube video getting out there. But that was the first time. Yeah, I mean. How did that all start? I'm trying to remember, Doug.
Well, our mutual friend Nathaniel was sharing the Harlem Shake videos with us. And I was like, well, there's nothing to this. We could do this. We could make one. And then he's like, and I think we were down at Cranky's and Timber overheard. And he's like, well, then, yeah, let's do that. I have the equipment. I have the camera, right? And so, we just we didn't even. I don't think we even stopped to think about it. We were just like, all right, we'll go home and we'll come back in a couple hours, right? It felt like
that is how I, as much as I can remember of it, because at that point I had been at Cranky's a good amount of day. Because I mean, if you're going to go to church, you should spend some quality time there. Yeah. And at that point, yes, I just remember there was a conversation, and then I was like, yes, let's make this happen. Let's do this. And everybody was like, yeah. And then everybody was just gun ho. And at that time, the owner, I remember somebody made a call and was like, are you okay? And he was like, oh yeah, go ahead. And we just went ham. So
we were thinking of the video that we should do this year. And I don't know why, but that memory reminded me. And we're trying to sell this to my wife. We normally run our stuff that we're going to do against our wives, just so they know how much of a fool we're going to make of ourselves, so they can be prepared. And they tried talking us out of doing this Harlem Shake. I mean, we're grown men dressing up, and well, if you check out our video on
over a
Facebook,
decade after the fact,
completely pulling this out of nowhere was just fun. I'm up on the cider, just like
I would say less
Pumping
than
up
20% of the people that saw our video knew what the Harlem Shake
And
was.
that was actually the best part. Like my wife was saying, like at her work, she was sitting around with 5 different people, and they're like, "What the heck did your husband just do? Like what, you know?" And there was like one person that knew what the Harlem Shake, and she came back and she's just like, "See, I told you no one's gonna know what the Harlem Shake is." And I'm just like, let me get this straight. You're sitting around with 5 people talking about our cidery for 10 minutes. I'm like, that's advertising. Like that. I don't care if you know what the Harlem Shake is. That works. So just kind of that first story of meeting you, that was the Harlem Shake, and just we love making fools of ourselves. So kind of watch some of our videos and laugh with us.
I loved that video. Actually, I had some nostalgia when I saw it. I was just like, oh yeah, I remember that time. The Harlem Shake was
So
just
innocent
like,
and silly.
yes, it was just wild.
I think that was like summer of 2012. You said.
I don't know. I would guess it was 2012, but man, it's forever ago. It's a lifetime ago. I got a quick story in the barrel. It is the first time I went kayaking with Spencer. Spencer bought him and his wife a kayak, and he'd been going out endlessly. And I was like, man, like, I get it. Like, you're sitting in a little boat, you know, is it really entertaining? Is that he's going to keep doing it over and over? And I would say, yeah, like mid-20s, I would say. So again, 15 years ago, geez, God, where does it go? And so I convinced him one early spring day that I would take his wife's. It was a little tinier kayak than his. And we went out to a bay, and we probably went, 400 yards into a bay. Like, we didn't even get onto Lake Winnebago or anything. And it was so calm and peaceful, and you're so connected with nature. There's no motors. There's nobody around you. You have the freedom to go in the shallowest water. You know what I mean? It's very, very interesting thing. Bam. The sky opens up. It's blowing 20 plus mile an hour winds. We're in open water that's coming from where we left from. We were out on the water for like a half hour, and we got up at 5 a.m. to go do this. Right? So it is happening.
Salt Asylum Bay.
The boats are coming off of the lake. Like the boats are, and they're getting their boats onto the, and we're paddling into this wind, and I'm in a kayak that's too small for me, and it's not for open water, and I can't, and I'm like, if my nose gets off center, I go backwards. My arms are burning. I'm not freaking out. I'm very comfortable in water, but I want to get out of this rain, and I don't want to be stuck in it. You know what I mean? So it was not scary, but it was alarming that we had to move right now. And we got off, and this boat came up. He's like, hey, and I must have looked like I was having a hard time, because he was like, you guys okay? We're like, we're good. I mean, we're 30 yards away from the thing. I just hoofed it big time. And we get landed, we clean everything up. I'm just beat. And as soon as I got my tax return, I went and bought my own kayak.
What is that?
So, it was definitely an experience, and it was nothing ever goes perfect. Nothing ever. It really speaks to the brand of the making the best of it. You make your own fun, man, and it was a lot of fun.
He was looking over at me, and I'm just laughing like a madman. I think that got him more nervous, because I'm just over going over these waves and just acting like a madman, make a man fool out there on Salt Asylum. That was a fun day. I forgot about that. That was good.
Yeah. And then Rosenthal's got one. Yeah, Clory's got one. Grotto got one. You were a trendsetter in that way. Everybody followed suit.
Now everybody's got one.
Yeah.
I get you out. Do you ever go kayaking?
Let me tell you about timber and water.
Yeah, I was saying,
we don't hang out together like that. I love water from shore.
Right.
I fish from shore. That's just me.
You've done the polar plunge, I remember.
I did do the polar plunge.
That's
and
I had to do that.
Oh, whew, that's a whole nother story. We're gonna talk about that. All right, those were fabulous stories. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, but now, well, you know what? We are going to take a quick commercial break.
Did you know there are children in the Fox Valley in need of hearing aids, but their parents struggle to provide them because of lack of insurance or high copays? I am Juliette Sturgeon, audiologist and board member of Here in the Fox Cities, and proud that this small local nonprofit organization has helped fund hearing aids for some 30 kids. Your donation would help more children hear. Visit hereinthefoxcities.org to learn more and to see their smiles. Every child deserves to hear.
All right, we are back. Once again, I want to put a shout out there to my nonprofits in the region. The Kosh gives away commercials to nonprofits for free. So if anyone here would like to come in and record a new commercial with the Kosh, we would love to have you. All right. But at this time, before we jump into topic of the week, we have another yummy cider. What do we got, Spencer?
Yeah, so part of what got us into cider and how we learned about cider was just immersing ourselves in all these West Coast, East Coast, European ciders. And so I thought we'd do one that's not our cider. I wanted to bring one of my favorite Spanish ciders. I don't even know how to say. How would you say that name, Doug?
Why would you do that to me?
Because
I love this.
Stagio is what I was going to go with.
Is there an O?
No, I'm just adding.
Is there an old?
Saseg?
But this is Spanish cider, and what I love about Spanish cider is there's a lot of local culture, like it's made up in the mountains of Spain. They do it very traditionally, and what's fun is they don't actually carbonate it, and it's very acidic. I love the more acidic, drier ciders, and this one doesn't actually have carbonation. So when I served it to you, and what I'm going to do for myself right now is you actually have to splash it into the glass, and so hopefully I won't get it on your expensive microphone. But basically, it creates the effervescence, and it's just, I don't know, it's cool that like we get to live a little bit of Spanish culture of cider, and how every little country has like their own little cider traditions. America is like more of the wild, wild west, where if you go to Austria, Italy, France, and Spain, they all have their own cider. So this is a Spanish cider. So I'm gonna pour a little glass.
All right, and oh, look at that! I can tell you know what you're doing over there.
I try.
You know what you're doing over there.
But it's just funky and it's acidic and it just lights up all of my taste buds and just evaporates off the tongue. So this was one of the first European ciders that Doug and I found, and it's just, that's what I love about cider.
This hits
not
different.
One-dimensional, at all.
No, this hits different. And you know what I noticed about this right away is like this like hit in the sinuses.
Yeah.
Like this hit
Totally.
in the sinuses like different. This is good.
That's what we love about cider. Just every culture. Like Doug was in Ireland and just trying Irish ciders, and just every culture has like their little thing with cider.
We do have an Irish cider here, gifted. My brother lives out there. My sister went to go see him. She brought me back an Irish cider if we want to give that one a try too.
Oh, look, don't tell all the secrets now. People will be out here at the doorstep. Okay. Well, thank you. And this one's so different actually from everything that we've tried along the way. I don't have any pairing with this. It's unique, but it definitely, there's something different about it where it hits the sinuses and has a very different aftertaste, but I like it.
This one I just love with the afternoon, normally just snacking on like grapes and different things, cheeses, grapes, and food. But this one's just really good in like the afternoon, just sitting out watching the lake or something.
Okay. Well,
Sasteg. That is, if anybody wants to pronounce that properly.
We got friends here on the Kosh. Somebody can help us out. You know what? Maybe we'll put a picture of it out there and we can get some assistance.
Yeah, maybe they can help us phonetically spell it so we say it right.
You know, look, we got friends. I'm not about, and you know, I'm not scared to slaughter something either because I slaughter people's last names all the time. So grace needs to be given where there is love.
Fox Valley has a lot of different, it's a good melting pot in its own, so you get a lot of different history names.
Oh my God.
I still don't know how to say Will's last name. I want to say amateur. I always screw it up too. I don't even try. So that made me laugh so much listening to that episode.
Oh yeah. Well,
pronunciation?
Oh yeah, I slaughtered that name all up. But Will was so cool. Let me tell you about Will.
Cool.
Will walked in that morning. Big shout out to Will and Big Willie style.
Yeah.
Will walked in that morning to record his episode. He's got 2 beers of Big Willie style.
Hell yeah.
This is like a 9 a.m. recording. And he sits down at the mic, cracks one open, and we're on. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a great one. And it was.
was.
Will is amazing.
He's been my bartender since like through college. I met him in college, and then he went to Rubial and then the Gibson. And I love watching his success, and he's been a really good cheerleader for us too. So
I've been around for a couple of comedy openings with Will.
I love.
He's working on that stand up. He's flexing those stand up muscles. So that is a fun thing.
I just want to clarify: is Big Willie style a barley wine or a beer?
It is a barley wine. Yeah, if I am correct.
They have different iterations of it. I want to say I had like a pecan version yesterday with the Society of Brewers. So good. So they do different versions of the Big Willie too.
He loves barley wine. I don't know how he does it.
If I am correct, it is a barley. If I am 100% and Ian, a big shout out to Ian, talked about it on his episode of the Kosh, and I do believe it is a barley wine.
Yeah, he loves it
because it takes time. It takes months.
Yeah,
months
he
and months.
He also
to
loves
make that.
his meads and sizers. So actually, the only reason we did a sizer was just because I told Will I would. It was a promise. So. Our sizer, you can thank Will for that too.
You know what? I just feel like maybe we need to make a collective episode where I just bring y'all in and bring Carl in and bring Ian and his partner in, and then
we play a game of Risk.
oh man, that's intense. I love Risk though.
That is
Sign
intense.
23-hour podcast.
Okay, so it is time. Every time we hear that, we know it is time for the topic of the week. The topic of the week is chosen by our guests 99.9% of the time. This week is no different. Spencer and Doug, what do we have for topic of the week?
It's time. It is time right now. We are waking up from our hibernation. The snow apocalypse is gone. I didn't see any snow out there at all.
Facts.
I know that there's always this awkward lull from when you record something to when it's published.
Yeah.
But it is going to be in the 70s today, allegedly. It is gorgeous. It's time to get out and support your favorite places for food, for beverage. Gather your people. Get out there. Use it or lose it. I am very, very excited that we are getting back into kayaking season, picnic season, golf season. Ultimately, topic of the week, what are your big plans for spring? What are your big plans for the summer? I do want to touch base on how risky early thaws are for our product. Apple trees will go into a hibernation themselves. Is there a better word for it?
They're blossoming. So we have trees right now in my yard blossoming, and I imagine up at Maple Valley in Swamico, they're probably starting to blossom. So this is the scary part for us.
If there is, after the trees are no longer dormant, that's the better word for it. After they wake up from the winter and they start budding, and then there's another freeze, you run the risk of severely reducing the amount of fruit you're going to get in a year.
Right.
And coming from restaurants and, being in the winemaking thing, I did not appreciate until our first season that I'm in the agriculture business. The weather, climate, these things affect me disparately than they did before I started pursuing this. If we get another cold snap, we'll be in a little bit of hot water. But like I said, I really want to encourage everybody to get out of the house and get their people together, enjoy this nice weather and the gift that yearly we get from Wisconsin, which is the outside time.
Yeah, we've been really lucky. These last 2 years have been an amazing apple season. And so it's a little hesitance, when we see this warm weather, it's a little bit early. And so it's been crazy that I didn't even get to get ice fishing this winter. So it's been some crazy weather. So we love it, but we're also hesitant. So that's kind of what we've been thinking a lot about the apple trees, and they're just starting to bud. This is also the fun time though, to go around and try to find wild apple trees. So the easiest time is actually to spot the flowers. So as it starts budding and then they start flowering, so in the upcoming months, we're also going to be going around trying to look for wild crab apples. There's some in the area around Silent Bay and some other places. I'm not going to give away all my locations, but
he said that's like not giving away. I ain't going to tell you where I'm fishing now.
Yeah. There's nothing crazier than when we would pick crab apples at certain parks, and just the strange looks we got of two guys up on ladders picking crab apples off of trees. Most people would just keep walking. They're like, these people are strange. We just keep walking, just keep walking. Some people finally stop and ask, what the heck are you doing? We always get a lot of ladies, older ladies that have had crab apple jam. Like, you must be making crab apple jam. And I'm like, I've never had crab apple jam, but I want to try it. But no, we're making it into booze. And they're like, oh, okay. So, yeah, so the apple trees are waking up. That is kind of the topic of the week. So it's kind of on our minds, and just like, how's that orchard doing? And how are we going to do this year? How's the apples going to be?
Why do I feel like anyone from Wisconsin, you could be literally doing almost anything and look crazy, and then if they ask, what are you doing? Oh, we're going to make booze. And everybody's, oh, okay. And then they just totally like throw their hands up and they keep
total
it.
Sense, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And then they don't
Good answer.
They don't have any more questions. Like, that answered everything that they needed to know.
I remember one guy came back with his own bucket and started picking crab apples, and I gave him some tips on, because he made wine in his basement. I'm like, you can make cider. I'm like, it's all about time. And I'm like, here's your secret, little crab apples. It's like, so yeah.
And then he goes home and gets a bucket.
Yeah. And
oh my God.
And I'm fighting him over crab apples. There's plenty of crab apples that day, but yeah.
Very silly story is, we were picking crab apples one time, and this lady stopped, and she's like, hi, what are you guys doing? We explained, the advantage the crab apple in our juice blend gives us and everything. She's like, oh, cool. She was just out on a jog. I want to say a full 2, maybe 3 years later, we were at a party serving cider, and this lady came up. She's like, were you those guys in the park I talked to?
Those crazy guys? Yeah.
So shout out to Susan.
Oh, you know what? That is such a Kosh story, because this region, like, we are literally a half a degree away from knowing it, all of us.
Right.
That does not surprise me. Okay, so I love this whole idea. So you can tell by a blossom, and there's like secret opportunities. That's what I'm going to call
right
it
now, and then the apple trees start to flower, right?
Right.
It's just so much easier to spot a flower in spring. So you think, oh, I want to go find apple trees. I'll wait for the fall when I see apples. Apples are a little bit harder to see. The animals get to them. They blend in. Big white, red flowers just stick out, and when you get used to seeing them, you see, oh, that's an apple. And so you start to drive through these back countries of, like, even around Oshkosh, and you go, I found a tree in Neenah, and you can just tell it was a farmer that took a bite of, ate an apple and just chucked it out his window. And you can just tell these wild apple trees, and this is when we spot them, is in the spring, and getting out there and be like, and then we can try that fruit in the fall. We can test it for acid, tannins. Heck, if you discover one, you can even name it. So if you go find one, maybe you can have the Kosh apple or the timber apple. So you get to even name them too. So wild apple trees are kind of fun.
Yeah, that one I would have to. If I found an apple tree, I'm personally owning that as is. And I don't want an apple tree. I want a plum tree.
Okay.
Plums.
So all these trees are crazy because you can actually graft multiple. So you could even have a plum tree. It's in the apricot type family. You could have a tree with plums, apricots, all kinds of things like that, all in one tree. So maybe we get you a multiple tree. Grafting is fun. If you haven't got into grafting, you
can literally do that.
You can. So you could have an apple tree with 20 different apples on it because you're grafting from on these different branches, and you look probably like a witch, if you like this tree with all this different fruit. But in the stone family, you could have an apricot plum on one tree if you wanted, because they're in the same family. So they're all kind of freaks. It's kind of fun.
Oh, that's baller stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I turned off my phone. There is a fruit called the Kosh already.
Oh yeah, it was. Wasn't it like, because we were looking at the cocktails again, it was like some Indian fruit or something?
I don't have my phone open.
It was like an Asian fruit.
It's not kumquat. I think it's in the plum family.
Yeah, so maybe we can put that on your tree too.
But it's a genetic variation
of a plum.
Of something that is named after the guy. His name was Kosh, and so he got to name it.
Oh, see how these things, the universe has a funny way of all working together. That's what I'm going to say. Okay. Well, so now what I've learned is there's a lot of intentional efforts to go scout for apples. Y'all are in it year round, and you got to get in the game early so you can find some of those secret resources that not everybody thinks about or knows about. What am I missing? What are we missing as Kosh listeners that we should also know about the adventure of cider making? And just what are you guys about to get into this summer, this spring right now?
Yeah, it's just, I'll kind of echo what I said before. It's cradle to grave, right? We're touching that apple. We're crushing it, juicing it, fermenting it, aging it, then we bottle it, we cap it. We individually apply these labels. So all this is so personal to us. So we're giving you a little piece of us every time. So I'd say that's kind of like, just know that, you know, and I see that in other people's products now too. I love, like, you just notice these other entrepreneurs and the love that they put into it. It's the same for us.
Right now, I mean, we're excited that the tasting room's back open. So we're getting through that. We're trying to stay ahead of the curve so that we have releases to be ready throughout the year. Right now we have 2 great spring releases, the hibiscus cardamom, which is new, and the blueberry basil, which is new. We just released the blueberry last week. The rhubarb lavender agave was brought back from last year. It's sweeter this year, so it's still, if you liked it and you still want to come try it, it's still new.
Cherry lime will be the next flavor releasing, fermented on tart cherries from our neighbor on Merritt Street, so a couple blocks from here, and then back sweetened with black cherry juice and lime zest. So just stay tuned. Like, follow us. The Ciderworks part of our name is we're constantly coming. Some flavors are a flash in the pan. You'll never see them again. Some we bring back, like the rhubarb lavender. So we're always trying to just have fun. That's the Ciderworks part of the name, is just we get to do whatever the heck we want.
One thing I think you asked what we're missing, right? It's just like how basic it is, right? I mean, we're not doing anything that anybody else can't do. The equipment's not expensive to get started if you wanted to start doing your experimenting on your own. When we toured Sturgeon Spirits before you open with the S.O.Bs, somebody was like, "Oh man, can you imagine having to clean all this equipment?" And I'm like, "Well, that's the job. That's why you don't do it at home by yourself. Is that it's all the cleanup, all the every single step you take in the cider making process it's dishes. So I definitely encourage people to roll up their sleeves, try some things, come ask us questions how to do it, explore the hobby. If you have beer making equipment, secrets. You have everything you need. If you have literally a glass jar, you're almost there, to be honest. So yeah, it's as old as time. Alcohol has been around as long as humans have been around. This is just the contemporary phase of it. Like you said, Ciderworks allows us to do traditional American ciders with a nod to the old world, as well as trying new things like infusing aromatics of flowers. We're very lucky to be around when we are around. We're having a lot of fun.
Well, what I'm going to say is this. Thank you so much for not just being amazing guests, but also for sharing the love with me, because that's what I feel like, sitting down here and getting an opportunity to taste your work, taste the love that you have put into this process, these ciders, is just simply amazing. And I just really want to tell the Kosh listeners, once again, if you get an opportunity, you need to go slide over there to 17th Street.
Noon to 5 on Saturdays.
That's right. 12 to 5 on Saturdays. And just give it an opportunity. And I promise you will not be disappointed. It is by far one of the biggest hidden gems in the Kosh right now. And then lastly,
thank you, Timber.
The one thing that you didn't put out there, which is near and dear to my heart, is the fire. Y'all got some fire stuff. You didn't even talk about the fire. Now, I'm not saying we got to go all down the road of the fire, but you got to at least tell, because some of us like a little heartburn, and you got to tell people about the fire. Y'all sitting there with that fire. Like, I tasted that. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, there's a lot of pepperheads in the Kosh.
That's right. I had to giggle a little bit, which meant that was hot.
Yeah, we started off one of our ciders we made in our basement was a pineapple Reaper. So it was pineapple juice with Carolina Reaper. It was just a hint of Carolina Reaper. It was just a little bit of spicy, kind of makes you keep drinking it, a little bit of heat on the back of your throat. And we kept telling people, we explained how we made this, and they're like, "Well, can I try the Carolina Reaper pepper?" We're like, "No, why would you want to do that to yourself?" And they're like, "I want to do that," because you find these pepperheads. So I grow the peppers in my garden. We've made Carolina Reaper, Apocalyptic Scorpion. This year we did Komodo Dragon Chili Pepper. So yeah, the peppers infuse great into the ciders. So that's been fun too, is we end our tasting with, if you're brave enough, you can try one of our hot ciders. And normally Doug's right there with them. I'm a little bit, I even don't drink that much of it. It's so hot, but Doug loves cheersing people and doing it.
So just to clarify what he means by infusing, we just ferment the cider with the pepper in it. We'll freeze the pepper, and we'll kind of masticate it a little bit so it has a little more surface area.
Right.
We don't chop it up or anything. We just sort of smash it. And then it ferments on the cider. It infuses all those pepper oils into you get so much pepper flavor. And as like a food guy, you can make stuff hot. Does it taste good? Right? What's the point of it being hot? It's not
if it doesn't taste good.
And so we knew we liked it, like the pineapple one. We wanted something tropical and we wanted it a little bit spicy. The spice was a sneaky trick to make you want to keep drinking because you'd have that tickle in your throat. So the thing that's going to help your tickle in your throat is sipping it. We've had ciders like it in the past. We liked them. But like you said, we'd go to these tastings and there'd just be this line that somebody would taste the hot one. They'd be like, I got to go get my buddy. I got to go get my buddy. And there'd be this line of what I call dudes. He calls pepperheads. I call dudes at all these tasting events that they're lining up for the hot stuff. I love it. I think it's great for spicing up a cocktail, kicking up a dish, marinating.
Bloody Marys.
There's all kinds of utilitarian use for the cider that's not just drinking it, but it has such a great pepper flavor. It's totally worth a try.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Hey, it's near and dear to me because, big shout out to my man Carl and Todd over there at Sturgeon Spirits. Once again, Oshkosh's newest tradition. That's the Kosh's base. It has just that little underlying heat with some habanero vodka, and it makes it right with the world. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to test the theory because before y'all leave this place, I'm going to bless y'all with some of Timber's salsa.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe some of Timber's hot sauce. We actually got to check it out and see what the numbers look like. I know I got a lot more salsa than I do hot sauce because the hot sauce, anybody will tell you my hot sauce is amazing. It's not just fire. And it's just not fire for the sake of fire. It is flavorful yumminess.
You were talking this up the other day at the cider, so now I'm looking forward to it.
That's right. I'm ready for it. Look, I don't just talk this smack. I live this life. All right. It is time. So thank y'all once again. And we are going to start wrapping up this episode. Okay, Kosh listeners. Thank you. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for giving us your minds and ears. Thank you for caring about more amazing people within our community, another amazing business in our community, people making a difference, people making the Kosh and the surrounding region just a better place to be. I love these conversations. I cannot stress it enough. I learn every time we get an opportunity to sit down with these guests. And I'm hoping that you value the things they share as much as I value the things they share. As you know, the Kosh is a work in progress. We're always trying to be better. We want to become the #1 podcast in all of Wisconsin. I think we have an opportunity to do that with your help. We are the People's Podcast. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. But how do you do that? Well, if you got any recommendations on how we can make this show a better show, please don't hesitate to let us know. If you would like to be a guest, if you would like to suggest a guest, you can reach out to us at askthekosh@gmail.com. Once again, askthekosh@gmail.com. Also, help us out by, we need some improved analytics. If you have great analytics, they tend to put the podcast in front of more eyes and ears. And I think we got something pretty special here at the Kosh here that I think if people can learn about it, they'll really, really enjoy learning about the people in our region. But how do you do that? While you're listening to this right now, take a moment and press subscribe. And if you've got a few more moments, leave us a review. These are the things that make for better analytics. And the better the analytics, the more people will learn about the Kosh. All right. I also want to take one quick second to let y'all know that we are in the process right now of opening up story time to our guests. We want to open it up. So we have recently got a new phone number where you can call us and leave us a voicemail. Ask us questions. If you like questions for our guests, we'll share them with the guests. And also, if you would like to do a story time, I would love for y'all to call in with your stories, and we will share them directly here on the Kosh. That phone number is 920-385-5073. Once again, 920-385-5073. Call us, leave us a message, and participate in this thing we call the Kosh. Okay, but now we are on to the serious part of the show. Well, maybe not that serious. It is shout out time. So who's going to start the shout outs?
Doug, do you want to start?
I will do my very best. There's no way that we can get everybody in this list. I definitely want to give a shout out to Andy over at Parm, the guys down at Fifth Ward, Carl down at Sturgeon Spirits, the whole team over at the Gibson and elsewhere. Anytime we have questions, we get the privilege and access to just get the expert's opinion, get the expert's interpretation and guidance. And they don't ask for anything in return. They've been more than helpful. A shout out to Amy and Ron Malinsky for all the childcare that helps me pursue this dream. That the list goes on and on. There's not enough time. I appreciate everybody. Appreciate you, Timber. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So shout out to Corey Marson, our graphic designer, who just makes us look amazing. He's a good friend of ours. He's helped us. Wagner's and Beckett's for giving us our first chance at selling cider, being so supportive, doing a dinner with us at Beckett's, to Howard doing a cider pairing. Oh, both those pairings were just so amazing to us. They're going to be memories forever. And then a shout out to just the community, like Fifth Ward, Zach and Ian, very helpful, giving us always tips. Jody at Bare Bones, some of the basic questions I asked him about tanks, I can't believe he didn't laugh me out the room when I first started. And Shane and over at Rushford, him and his wife, Laurel, are just amazing. And so technically our competition, not really, out in Omro. If you haven't checked them out, the Rushford Winery, Meadery, oh, so good. And then a shout out to the city for working with us. We're very small. We don't fit the mold of most wineries. So like the city clerk and everyone at pretty much all levels of government in Oshkosh have been really helpful. And that's really powerful. And just them empowering us has been huge.
That says a lot. That's community. My shout out list real quick. I want to send a shout out to my man Chuck Self for giving me a holler. He is a Kosh alumni. Great episode. You should check that one out. Shout out to my man Oliver Zorno and the whole team over at the Building for Kids. I get a chance. I'm on that board, and just the thoughtfulness, the amazing things they create for these kids to create these environments of play-based learning. Just light years ahead of the game, as not just for what they do for the kids, but just as an organization as a whole, and how they choose to move, their thoughtfulness, and how they are creating sustaining models for the future for our children. Just awesome stuff. Big shout out to Mike and Gwen across the street, our neighbors who are our partners in crime and get to do all the things with us. Our man Mike turned 60, and thank y'all. Y'all are the best. Those are just our partners in crime. Send a shout out to April Savage and David Kelso. April Savage, she is part of the, I'm not even going to think of the organization, but it's going to come to me after the fact. Nonetheless, I'm going to send a shout out to April Savage and to David, who is part of the Appleton Podcast Co-op. Had him this week on the Appleton Engage podcast. I just appreciate everyone who makes time to be on these podcasts and have these conversations and share these resources, these stories, and who they are as our neighbors. It just doesn't really get better than this. And then, of course, the last shout out always goes to my wife, who loves me dearly, takes care of me beautifully, and continues to let me do this podcast out of her house. It is doesn't get better than this. Okay, so last thing, you've got one thing left to do, Spencer and Doug, and it is this. You get 3 choices. The choices are this. You can do A, leave the Kosh listeners with some parting words of wisdom. B, tell the Kosh listeners, what would yourself today tell your 13-year-old self? Or option C, like a true multiple choice, I got to give you both options as an all of the above. So who wants to start it off?
I'll start. I would say just go for it, whatever that is. For everyone, that's different. I think one of Doug and I's biggest fears actually was just someday being really, really old men and never have tried doing any of this, and just that regret. And so even if you crash and burn, whatever, it doesn't, don't live with that. like later in life and regret that you didn't go for whatever that is in your life. And so for us, it was the cidery. Obviously we have tons of support along the way, but whatever makes you passion is like rare. I finally realized that like people like things and they have hobbies, but if you have a passion, that's actually kind of rare, and just go for it. You're not going to regret it. That'd be my wisdom.
It's hard to give wisdom without being preachy, right? And I just want to point out that the very famous Chris Farley character, Matt Foley, living in Van down by River, his speech was called "Go for it."
Nice.
But I would encourage, definitely we would reap the benefits of this is try new things, stay young. I caught myself kind of getting into a routine of going out to the same places to eat, ordering the same food, try new things. Not everything's going to hit, but you're never going to know what you're missing unless you try new things. When I was not 13, but probably 16, I was working at a seafood restaurant. The last thing I did every night was pick up those floor mats that have the holes in them, and I'd poke the scallops out with my finger before I had to go wash them. So there's a long time I avoided eating scallops. Waste of time. Scallops are delicious, right? Don't get in a rut. Like Spencer said, chase your dreams, try new things, be kind to each other. Can't go wrong.
Facts. Okay. Another episode of The Kosh. What did you guys think?
Too
Piece
fun.
of cake.
Thanks, Timber.
Thank you. The Kosh.